Welcome to the Mostly Pod Out at Night. Mostly, I am Graveyard, joined by my co-host Salem.
Hello.
This is episode 15 of our weekly All Things Horror podcast. This episode, we will be discussing and diving into the VHS franchise, and we'll be including the newest entry, VHS 99, that just came out, I believe, Friday or last week, 20th?
20th, yeah.
20th. So, spoilers ahead for that for anyone that hasn't seen it yet. And we'll be doing kind of our rundowns that we typically do for movies, but since these are anthology, we're going to be doing a new format for anthology TV shows and movies with this. So, we're going to do a quick recap of each movie. We're going to tag team these, and then just discuss the wrapper and kind of, choose our best stories, worst stories, and everything like that. So, here we go. Let's get into VHS. So what we'll do is we'll discuss each movie separately, and then we'll talk about the wraparound story at the end. So the first short or movie we have is Amateur Night. And I think it's a pretty solid entry when we get into it. It's a group of friends that they figure out they got like a pair of camera glasses. And they're trying to go around and find chicks to bring back to their hotel room. Very much bros. Go to the club, obviously very, very loud. Start talking to girls that are getting really drunk. And there's this one really quiet girl there with really big eyes, right?
The big eyes that almost seem like too far apart.
Right. And,
she had like a weird, like an odd look. I mean, on purpose, obviously. But.
Yes. And she just kind of whispers to the guy wearing the glasses, "I like you." And she wasn't really saying anything else, right?
Well, I think she tried saying it a couple of times, but it didn't work.
Yeah. It's almost like she's having a hard time speaking.
Yeah. I think it maybe even speaking in the right frequency.
Right.
Might also be part of it.
Yeah. So eventually, they all get drunk. They bring one chick they met at the bar. None of her friends that she said she is with ever really made an appearance or went with her or made sure she was okay.
Well, yeah, they made an appearance, but then disappeared fairly quickly. So.
Right. And then they brought back this really quiet woman with them. And so there's 3 guys and 2 girls. One guy was sitting on the couch. One guy was going to be recording while the other guy was, they're going to have sex and record it because, they're college bros. That's what they got to do, right?
Is that what they do?
I don't know. I was
I didn't understand the whole point of let's get the kind of nerdiest guy in our group to wear these glasses, right? And then what? You guys are just planning on not bringing women back. You're just planning on watching the other guy while he does. I didn't understand what was going on with that.
Yeah.
They're bros, I guess. It's
right. They're frat bros probably. So the one girl passes out. The other one, the guy's like, "Oh, she's passed out. I guess I'll go to this other girl." Kind of shoves off.
Okay. Now, to be fair here, date rape would have happened if the other 2 guys were not in the room.
That's true.
I mean, that was. He was upset that they were telling him to stop. He was upset, and that's why he went after the other girl, was because he was I got blue balls and they won't let me date rape this passed out girl.
Yeah.
So yeah, that guy was he was an asshole in many different ways, but yeah, the only reason that did not happen is because he was being watched.
Right. So he gets on this other girl, I don't remember her name. She gets naked and then starts, they show a scene of her feet, which gargoyle-ish feet.
Yeah, they had weird scales and talons.
Yeah, oh, absolutely.
Stuff. Yeah, it was not pleasant. And the guy's like, whatever.
Right. And then they, turn around and they start to have sex, and also she starts tearing up the dude, right? And the guy that was on, the bro that was on the couch, got naked because he was going to join in too. And they're just kind of hiding in the bathroom together. She's still out there. Yeah, she's still tearing this guy apart. He grabs the shower curtain rod, tries to attack her, easily overpowered.
Yeah.
And then the guy with we'll call him the cameraman because he has the camera glasses. He's covered in blood. She kind of is like, eating ish the other two guys. Kind of start to see wings come out of her back. He's running away, trying to escape. He falls down the stairs, like the last two steps, and just like destroys his arm. Or was it his leg?
Whatever. Arm, leg, whatever. He stopped moving after that point.
Yeah, and then she kind of went down there. She seemed to still generally like him and not want to hurt him.
Yeah, it seemed like she didn't see him as food. She saw him as like a mate.
Right. And then he rejected her, so she kind of went into like under the stairwell, started crying. Then he tried to escape, pounding on glass, and then she saw, okay, now you're a victim. Kind of grabs him, like talons him in the back and carries him up on, bat-like creature, and then drops him to the ground. Fair?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, that's fair. I think she was tenderizing him, probably.
Right. So, we'll get into our first thoughts, kind of just first thoughts of each story, I think. Or you want to say first thoughts of this story? Like, I pictured her as a siren.
Yeah. I mean, whatever it was. It's like a monster. And like, that weird kind of line she had earlier, where her eyes were kind of too far apart. Like when she went into like full monster mode, it split open.
Right. She got a vagina nose.
Yeah. It was bizarre looking, but yeah, that's why there was that weird line in her head, is because it was like, apparently, like, I don't know what it was, like a mouth in her head. I have no idea what that was.
Your guess is as good as mine.
Right.
All right, so let's get into the second one, which is called Second Honeymoon. Essentially, it's a man and woman. I think, was it their second honeymoon, or was it just?
I don't think they ever said what it was. They were just like going on a road trip together, and they were obviously like together because they were like doing normal couple type stuff.
Yeah, went out to the Old West to look at stuff. She got. The wife got mad because the husband didn't book a room enough in advance, so they had two separate beds instead of one bed.
I don't think she was upset about that. I think that was just an observation.
And he has a camera because this is what everyone does on honeymoons. I guess I didn't. So he's trying to record her, to have sex with their camcorder there. She doesn't want to. So they go to sleep, and then all of a sudden we see a camera pick up, and someone's in the room and takes like a switchblade and kind of rubs it against the wife's butt, and then does the sickest thing ever: throws the husband's toothbrush into the toilet, and then leaves. It takes $100 from his wallet too.
Right. Yeah. Well, right before that, when he was like, trying to get her to have sex on camera, she was into it, but she's like, not on the camera. But the reason that got spoiled is because somebody was knocking on their door, and it was some woman. Chick, some woman that was asking for a ride the following morning. We don't see that. That happens off screen, but that's why they like got kind of weirded out and they just went to bed.
Yeah. So they drive out. They're like rock climbing, and then he decides to look at his wallet all of a sudden while rock climbing. He's like, "Do you take my money?"
Yeah.
No. Right. Yeah. So then we kind of cut back to the night, and the intruder's back in the room and just gouges the husband's neck out with the switchblade.
Yeah, it escalates very quickly.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I don't recall what happens next before they get into the car. Or is that the next scene?
Nothing happens. Yeah. Well, yeah, it's like, she stabs him in the neck. They show him like, gurgling and dying kind of thing. Yeah. And then they show them like making out in the mirror in that hotel room. Like, obviously, like they were both like, this is what they wanted kind of thing. And then it shows them like in the car driving away. And the wife is like, you got to erase that or whatever. That's it.
Right.
Yeah.
So very much implied this was a former lover, and this is the wife's second honeymoon because she had a honeymoon with the woman, then intruder the first time.
Yeah, I guess. I guess that's what it means. I mean, they don't really give you that information, but
no, I mean, yeah,
clearly they were lovers, yes, and they planned this murder.
Yeah. So, all right, so let's get into the next one, which is called Tuesday the 17th. So clearly 4 days after Friday the 13th. Surprise, surprise. A woman brings her group of friends to a forest camping area. She starts telling them, this is where I used to go. We've been here before. They find the swimming hole. Everyone tries to have sexy time as you do. And she mentioned, and we get glimpses through the camera of like dead people every here and there. Like, oh, that's weird. That's something that must be wrong with the camera. Yeah, just dead bodies appearing on your camera. It's perfectly normal.
Well, yeah, dead bodies. It wasn't just like a flash of a dead body. It was like a dead body specifically in that same location. Like,
right.
So it was like the dead body was obviously at that same place at some point in time.
Right. Yeah. And then they kind of, there's like a masked maniac, if you want to call him masked maniac, because he's very glitchy. Every time the killer would appear on the screen, he'd be all glitchy, distorted. Camera would be very distorted and starts kills two of the friends. And then the main girl confesses that she was there a couple of years before and she was the sole survivor of this masked killer.
Right.
And she came back to get like revenge or justice or closure or whatever it was. The other friend that she's telling to gets pretty much immediately killed. And then somehow she has traps we'll call it the glitch.
Yeah.
Like a spike wall came up from the ground and like impaled the glitch.
Yeah. And it was very obviously there. Like I saw it way before they triggered it. Like right. I was like, he's going to walk right into a trap because like it was plainly sitting there.
Yeah. But she ends up getting a trap on her too, or she just dies.
Well, yeah, she gets like they're fighting back and forth, and she gets stabbed and injured by the glitchy artifact guy.
Yeah.
And then I think like she essentially kills quote unquote the glitch guy a couple times.
Right.
And he just like comes back.
And
she's trying to get him on film, and then she's like realizing as she's looking through the camera viewfinder that like she's like, why can't I film you? Like she realizes that the film is not working.
Right.
And then so she keeps trying, and then of course she gets injured, hurt, and then eventually.
And then she starts glitching out.
Right. Yeah.
So implying
she
that
essentially
takes
she's over.
Right. That's the implication I got from that.
Right.
All right. So let's get into these are all titles of these short films. Is The Sick Thing That Happened to Emily When She Was Younger.
Which is, I don't know, I don't think that's a good title for this. You know what I mean?
They don't discuss stuff when she was younger very much.
I know. That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Like it's only like, that's like a very like.
There's a line.
Localized, period of time. It was like maybe like a couple weeks.
Yeah.
Or at least it seemed like that long. So I don't know.
Essentially, it's a woman. She's doing video chats with her boyfriend who's off getting his doctorate in Michigan. She has a new apartment. He's coming there for fall break, and she starts seeing and hearing like knocking and weird noises, and kept waking up the boyfriend in the middle of the night saying, "Hey, I'm afraid to look. Hey, I can't look." He looks, nothing there a couple of times, and then eventually she does it, and hey, there was like a small little creature child in the room, and closes the door. She's like, "Did you record that?" He goes, "No." "Well, you need to record it next time." He goes, "Okay." All the while she's rubbing her arm, I feel like there's something in my arm. He's like, "Don't do that. You did that." Here's the line. "Remember when you did something like that when you were 12? I had to move away or change schools. I was like military brat, I guess." like they knew each other since they were 12, so that was the sick thing that happened to her when she was younger. That's why I took it as.
I guess. Or maybe, yeah, like the thing that brought her to this happened when she was young. Maybe that's what they're referring to. I don't know.
Right. But essentially she gets a decent sized hole in her arm and is picking at it and like takes a barbecue fork and starts like shoving it into the armhole.
Right.
And I guess she's done stuff like that before, but she's like, hey, I don't want to look. You be my eyes. And she's like, go walk in the room trying to spot stuff with her computer. And she does see stuff on there, or the camera picks it up. We see kind of like two-ish creatures that like start to glow a little bit. And they kind of knock her out. And all of a sudden the boyfriend walks right through the door. You know, it's like, oh, we're going to have to do this. Let like cut into her, take out a baby, you know, a cesarean abortion, essentially.
Yeah, but it didn't look like it actually like caused a lot of blood or anything. Like it was like a thing that was supposed to happen.
Well, everyone knows you can cut into a human body. No, barely any blood comes out.
Well, if it's got an alien baby in it, maybe you can.
Right. Yeah. And he says like, you know, we have to explain this. So they're like, break some of her bones and saying that she sleptwalked and like got hit by a car or a bus or whatever it was.
Yeah, it's great explanation.
Right. Yeah. So, and she goes, you know, clumsy, blah, blah. I can't wait to see you next week. He hangs up the video chat, and another chat comes up, and he starts talking and going through the boyfriend routine because he was in on this, that what happened to Emily with these alien creatures, babies, and stuff like that. So it's implied that he does this to multiple women, that he works with the aliens to create these alien human hybrid babies.
Right.
So,
I mean, yeah. I mean, he may or may not be doing it with his own free will. Who knows? Because, I mean, the aliens were talking to him in some alien language, and he was responding to them in English, but he obviously understood what they were saying.
Right.
So, like, yeah, he'd been doing it for a while, but yeah, who knows if he's being, like, if he was also abducted and they're just making him help. Who knows?
Right. Yeah, you don't know. But it's implied this is a constant continuation that he's part of. That he's doing this to multiple women. And then the final episode was 10/31/98. You know, so it's taking place Halloween 1998. It's essentially a group of friends that are invited to this haunted house party, dressed up in the lamest Halloween costumes I've ever seen. I'm pretty sure one of them was the Unabomber.
Yeah, one of them was the Unabomber. One of them was like bargain bin pirate costume.
Right.
And then, the other guy was like just in a bear suit and said he was a nanny cam. And that was the excuse they had for why everything was being recorded. Is because
he was the nanny cam. Yeah. Right. So they go to this haunted house party. No one's there. They go in the room. There's like 8 dining rooms.
Okay. Yeah. But like, if you go to this, quote unquote party house and you look inside and there's nothing, there's no decorations, there's no furniture, people, there's no furniture. Yeah, like there's nothing in this house at all.
Right. And
the door was locked. Like, okay, you got the wrong house, obviously. But I mean,
right. But they're
frat boys, so who knows?
Yeah, so they go in there, like, how do we get, we see someone upstairs, and here's like, they show a couple of chairs in the house, like a chair per room. And like, how do we get upstairs? And they're hearing stuff upstairs, like that must be where the party's at. Like, no decorations, nothing like that. Like, and they found like stairs to the attic in a bathroom.
Right.
And and they walk up there and it's clearly an exorcism taking place. We can see it as an exorcism as the audience. They don't seem to have any idea what the hell's going on.
Yeah, they think it's like performance art or something. They're like, first, this is cool. Like, and they're just like sitting down, like watching it.
Yeah. Yeah. And then like the people performing the exorcism start getting like sucked into the rafters. They start to leave and like the doors start melding together. So there's no way out of the house. And they
you missed the funny part though.
What's that?
they were doing the exorcism, and they were all like, the power of Christ compels you. The power of Christ compels you. And then all of a sudden the frat boys started like joining in, like it was a funny thing.
Yeah.
And they all thought it was like a joke performance, and then everybody looks at them like, "What the hell are you?"
Yeah. So yeah, they were gonna go, and they realized, oh, we gotta get this chick out of here, because like everyone else does perform the exorcism, got sucked up into the ceiling, and they bring her in the car and start to bring her to a hospital. Driving really dumb, and their car kind of gets stopped and railroad tracks, and all of a sudden she's not in the car. They can't get out. She's standing outside the car. They're trying to get out, and the train hits them.
Yep.
So yeah, I mean, I call it the Exorcist Halloween party.
I mean, that's fair.
Yeah.
I'll call it the frat boy Halloween party.
There you go. And then kind of get into the
and there was all the hands coming out of the walls.
That was cool.
Yeah,
I like that.
So that was like, that was, so it was like legit haunted or something.
Yeah, or actually possession, and they still think they should take this girl out, which boggles my mind. If you start seeing shit like that, leave her.
Well, I mean, I would probably try,
Maybe. So let's get into the whole wrapper of these. A staple kind of this series is there's a reason, and there's somebody typically watching these tapes, not just found tapes. There's we call it wrapper, interludes, whatever you want to call it, that kind of ties all these things together. So we see people trying to be, I'm calling them douche criminals, that just go around to abandoned warehouses and start smashing everything with baseball bats and shit like that.
Oh yeah, don't forget the sexual assault.
Yes, they're recording a sexual assault, and someone's paying them good money to go around doing this. And one guy goes, "Hey, I got a mustache. You should listen to me. I know how to make all this money in one night. We have to go to this old guy's house and take a tape." So they start searching this once again. Pretty empty house.
Right.
And they find a dead guy in front of maybe 5 or 6 TVs, and they're looking for VHS tape, and they kind of start playing it, and one guy plays it. There's that guy behind him. He watches it, and the next guy's there trying to find him. The other guy's gone. The dead guy's gone from the chair. He plays the next tape, watches it. We kind of have that continuation of it throughout the entire thing.
Yeah, and then there's the other, because there was like 4 of them, and like 2 and 2 split up.
Yeah,
and there was 2 guys in the basement that found some tapes, and there was like somebody moving around down there. I mean, it's a whole lot of stuff moving around. But yeah, these are just little bitty like pieces of the story told between the other tapes.
Right.
But yeah, the reason why these tapes are being played is because they're trying to find the tape that
they're there for,
that the guy is there for, but he doesn't know it's supposed to be on the tape. He just says you'll know it when you see it. So they're like trying to find something that is obviously what they're looking for.
Yeah. So, I know you've seen that. I know you saw this when this first came out. I saw it when it first came out. What were your first thoughts upon seeing this?
I mean, I liked it. I like the idea of it. I mean, I've always liked anthology series as long as they're good,
Right.
But yeah, no, I mean, the stories are fun. I mean, they're, again, they're kind of like laser focused little mini stories, right? But,
yeah.
I mean, they're fun. They hit the right notes. I really liked it.
Yeah, I mean, it's a good way when you have, especially for this, it's like a compilation that's nice with anthologies. You have the idea for a 10, 15-minute horror movie, but you have no place to put it. And this was a great way for people to be able to do that. I think this is a great execution of it.
Yeah. It's like, they're like video short stories.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And I know we were discussing it when I was rewatching this. The only one I didn't remember was the second honeymoon. Like, I don't remember that short at all.
Yeah, the only one that I can't even say that. I mean, because I don't remember most of the rapper one.
Okay.
The only part I remember about that was the dead guy that was in the chair, and then eventually the dead guy wasn't in the chair anymore. That was the only part I really remembered.
Yeah.
But the rest of them is like, as soon as I started watching it, I was like, okay, I remember.
Yeah.
But like if you were to sit me down and say like, okay, name all the shorts in that movie, like I would probably not be able. I'd be able to name like one or two.
Yeah. The siren one, absolutely.
Yeah, I
That was
remember
always in my head.
Yeah, it was that one, and then the one about the second honeymoon one. That one I remembered.
Okay. So I mean, I don't think on the rewatch I caught anything new because it's there's not a lot of lore to these because they're so short, and that's
Right.
okay.
Yeah, no, that's not. Yeah, that's not their focus. They're not.
No.
Because lower, background stuff, you need a lot more time than the 10 minutes or whatever you have
Right.
to stick that in there. Right.
But I mean, it's a good rewatch though. I mean, I don't think I've watched these enough. I feel like.
Yeah, I mean, it's been a while. I didn't remember him, so yeah, it was definitely worth watching again.
All right, so let's get into our new thing for anthology movies and TV shows. Is we're going to pick our best story and weakest story. Not necessarily the worst story, but the weakest.
Mhm.
So for me, the best story was Tuesday the 17th, just because it was, obviously an homage to Friday the 13th, but like glitchy, so you couldn't tell who the mass killer was, because, you never see it. And the reason why they couldn't see it is because it's a giant glitch. And on the rewatch of this I saw that this was done by Ty West, who recently did, X and Pearl and is doing the third one, Maxine. And I liked those movies. So I thought it was a great movie overall. What were your best story or stories?
Well, my for this one is gonna be a tie between Amateur Night, which is the one with the siren, and then Second Honeymoon. Just because I think overall probably the siren has the better story and the better execution. But the Second Honeymoon one I like just because that whole element of like somebody being in your room when you're asleep
Yeah.
is terrifying. Like, I mean, if I would have like ever watched like, if I had a camcorder and I'd go back and look at my footage and I see someone like filming me when I'm asleep, I would be terrified. So I mean, yeah. So it gets points for scared.
Okay. That's fair. That's fair. Which is funny enough because Second Honeymoon to me was the weakest story. Of especially when you go through this stuff as far as like the franchise as a whole, it's kind of the only one that really didn't have anything supernatural about it. It's human.
Yeah. The humans are the scariest of all.
That's true. That's true. Except that siren's pretty scary. I mean, to me, it just felt like an oddity, and I guess I don't really watch a lot of the home invasion movies. And that might be just a choice. I don't know. I just don't know if I watch most of them. And it just felt like just a hotel invasion. And it's just kind of dumb to throw in the toothbrush into the toilet and then the next night murder him. Like,
well, yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like that was an extreme like jump. Like you do not. I did not expect a stab to happen. Like
right.
Because like the knife the first night, yeah, they run it across like her leg, and or whatever, and then she just kind of like brushes it off and then rolls up in the blanket, and then it's done.
Right.
And so like the next night, the guy's sitting there, and you like take out the knife, and they're going at him slow, like they're just gonna like touch his cheek or his chin or something,
Play
to, like
with
make him scratch. No, and it's just like stab, like whoa. I mean, I did not expect that to happen.
It's just weird. I think it's the toothbrush scene that threw me off because what was the point of that?
Well, looking back on it, you can see it was her other lover that was upset that he was still technically with her,
right?
Even though they were planning on doing this otherwise, but it wasn't happening yet. So she was getting her little vengeance, whatever.
Her jollies off.
Yeah.
So what? For you, what was your weakest story?
My weakest one was 10/31/98, and that was just those guys were just so annoying. I mean, they were just like, I don't know, like the whole part of them just like exploring the house was just so ridiculous.
Yeah.
Just like the way they talked, like the annoying way they filmed, just the annoying things they just, I don't know. I couldn't wait for them to die. I was like, I clapped when they finally got hit by a train.
Yeah. I mean, that's fair. I mean, that is true. They're not likable people. You didn't want them to live. Although I think the effects used in that movie were the best.
Yeah, the hands coming out of the wall was pretty cool.
Yeah. I mean, that was like them escaping the house with the possession. I thought was pretty cool.
Yeah, but yeah, I'd say between these Burrow guys getting hit by the train and then the fucking date rape guy getting torn apart, I mean those are both satisfying.
That's fair. All right, so we are going to do a number out of broken VCRs because we are old and we know what's like to have broken VCRs, especially in 2022. Most VCRs are broken.
Yeah, I was gonna say most VCRs in the world right now are broken.
Right. So. We're sticking with our scale out of 10. I'm going to give this one, just because overall, I really enjoyed it. I'm going to give it a 9.
Okay. I mean, I enjoyed it, but I didn't enjoy it quite that much. So I would give it, so this one I would give an 8. An 8 broken VCRs.
8 broken VCRs. That's probably how many VCRs were in this thing.
Probably. That's fair.
All right, so you want to kind of take the lead on VHS 2?
Yeah. So VHS 2 opens up with we'll start with the rapper first with this one.
Okay.
So this one starts off with well, in the beginning you don't know who it is, but in the beginning it's like a guy like watching a couple go back to a like no-tell motel type thing.
Right.
And he's like spying on them through the window. They're obviously starting their courting ritual, right? And he's recording the whole thing, and then he gets caught by like the maid who starts like yelling at him. And then with the maid yelling at him, the people hear him, and then they come out and stop him. So it's like this kind of schlubby looking guy. He runs back into his car and then drives away. And then after that, you realize that he's a private eye. So he's a private investigator, and that was that guy's wife hired him to go see if he was cheating or not.
Right.
And you can tell he's kind of shady because like right after that, he calls the guy and is like, "Hey, your wife is paying me to find out if you're cheating on him. If you pay me enough money, I'll just keep, taking her money and pretending I didn't see that."
Right.
Kind of thing. So yeah. So I mean, yeah, the guy's shady. But anyway, so then he goes, "Yeah, I got this other job. We got to go find this kid." Like the parents are calling in, they can't find the kid. So we're gonna go check his house. Then it's like him and his partner, who's obviously like younger than him, right? I would say he's probably like what, mid-30s.
Yeah.
She's probably like mid-20s, maybe late 20s.
But they seem like lovers.
I don't know about that. They seem like coworkers.
Okay.
I don't know. Maybe you felt some energy there that I didn't.
And all the 5 minutes we got with them. Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, so they go to the house, and obviously the doors are locked. They break in the back window, and it's like the house is like all kind of disheveled. There's not a whole lot of furniture or anything. It's just a bunch of like junk laying around. They go into the front room, and it's the same kind of setup as we saw in the first one, where there's like like 6 like TVs just showing like static all stacked on top of each other. And there's like some tapes there. So the woman is like, the guy's like, yeah, start watching these tapes, see if they got any clues or anything. I'm going to go check the rest of the house. And so this is the wrapper essentially where she's watching the tapes. And that happens, basically repeats until the end. I think the only thing that happens in the middle there is she has like a headache. And when she gets a headache, she starts getting like nosebleeds and stuff. So like, it seems like something's happening to her while she's watching these tapes, but until the end,
right.
Nothing else happens. So we'll go back to what happens after we talk about these other ones. So then, so the first tape is essentially a guy that gets like a cyborg eye, like a camera eye.
Yeah.
It shows him like the doctors telling him, oh yeah, keep it clean, don't mess with it. And he's like, oh, can I turn it off? And he's like, nope. You can never turn it off. He's like, oh, so you're gonna watch me all the time? Like,
You don't
Yeah,
want me to
that's the
spank
idea.
it? Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So that's the idea. Is like this is like apparently it's like a corporation's trial. It's not like a normal thing. This is
Right.
like a prototype. So yeah. So the guy essentially he goes home. And you know what he's trying to do is like normal kind of thing, and like little things are happening to where like he puts down his game controller and he goes back, and the game controller is like moved to the other side of the TV. Or he like then he goes to the front room to like make or to go to the kitchen to make tea, and then like you know his cup is in a different spot, you know, and then all of a sudden the tea kettle is like on the floor. Like weird little things are happening. He doesn't know what's going on. So as later on that night, like he starts like hearing like people moving and talking and stuff. And so he's looking around and he sees like I think there's like a little girl that's like in the background.
Yeah.
And then eventually like a kind of like a bloody guy like appears like right in front of him. So he freaks out and he runs in the bathroom and locks himself in. And essentially like passes out, falls asleep in the bathtub.
Yeah. Right. So.
Wakes up in the morning. You're like, oh, I don't know what's going on. He looks around, nobody's there, you know. So he's like, oh, that's weird. And then this girl knocks on the door. Well, he had seen this girl briefly when he was leaving the doctor's office.
Right.
And then she comes and she's like knocking on the door, you know, and he lets her in. And she basically describes to him what's going on as he's seeing like ghosts.
Right.
And the reason that she knows that is because she was born deaf and she's got her, you know, cochlear implants that let her hear, and she can hear ghosts as well.
Yeah.
So she can hear them, but she can't see them, and he can see them, but he can't hear them.
Right.
And so like, yeah, they're like talking back and forth, and like to kind of like emphasize her point, like there's this weird like guy in like, you know, saggy, tidy whitey underwear and nothing else, like hanging out outside the window, and he's like, oh, there's a guy out there, and she's like, yeah, I can hear him.
And she sounds like her uncle or something like that.
Yeah, she's like, yeah, that's my uncle. So it was obviously like, I don't know, there was weird stuff going on with that uncle, obviously, but
yeah,
he's like, well, I know how to make him go away, and so then they start getting it on, right? Because that's apparently what makes the ghost go away. So they wake up, or I should say, he wakes up.
Yes.
Later on, the ghost is gone, but then he's kind of just cruising around the house, and the ghosts are coming back. But this time they're like more like forceful, right? So they're like kind of pushing stuff around and breaking stuff and all that. And then if she gets involved as well, and she gets like pushed around and eventually gets pulled into the pool that he has, when he's trying to save her, and like whatever, some unseen force is like holding her underwater.
Right.
And she ends up dying.
Yep.
And then he ends up coming out of the pool, and he locks himself in the bathroom again because the same bloody guy is there, but there's more. There's like the little girl, there's like other women and people, there's like all kinds of ghosts everywhere. And so he locks himself in the bathroom, and he essentially cuts the eye out of his head.
Yeah.
And you can still we still see the recording of the eye, but obviously he can't see it anymore. And then we can still see the ghosts through there, but since he doesn't have that anymore, he can't see the ghosts anymore. But then the ghosts eventually just grab him and take him down and kill him.
Oh, they wreck him, yeah. Just because you can't see them doesn't mean they're not there. She couldn't see them.
Right, yeah. I mean, yeah, so we can still see them, but he can no longer see them, but they still hurt him, so.
Yeah. The dude had a pretty nice house, though.
Yes, he did. It was very nice.
I guess to have kind of that, I mean, it's a clinical trial, but it seemed like he had money to have paid for it.
Well, yeah, I mean, yeah, they look at the place that he lived, and there was obviously money involved. I mean, it was a nice place.
Yeah.
It had like a terrace and like a pool and like all kinds of, it was a nice place.
All right, so take us through, what's a ride in the park?
Oh, yeah, okay, so we're at a ride in the park. So it starts off like a guy is like setting up like a helmet camera to ride his bike.
Yeah.
And he gets a call, from his wife or girlfriend, like, where were you? You missed breakfast. And he's like, oh, I just had to come out and ride my bike. So he puts on his, his helmet, and he's riding his bike around, and then some lady comes running out like, oh, you got to help me. You got to help my husband. And she's all like covered in blood. And so he like gets off his bike and he looks and he sees somebody like in the forest. So he's like calling like, hey, you need help? Like, what's going on? And it's like a bunch of like shambling people coming towards him. And at this point, you realize that it's zombies, pretty obviously, right?
Yes.
So
Yeah.
then the lady becomes a zombie, and then she attacks him. And he runs for a little while, but like eventually just becomes a zombie himself.
Correct.
And then, well, actually, they show him, kind of find other people and then fall down. And like as he's in the process of dying, these other like people find him and they're like, "Oh no, we'll help you." And as they're trying to help him, then he becomes a zombie and gets up and attacks them. And then they all become like a herd of zombies together. And they attack like a little girl's birthday party. So there's like, screaming and death and blood everywhere. Like apparently, creepy uncle brought a shotgun, right?
Of course.
Well, I mean, yeah. I mean, there was a pickup truck there. They were in the forest preserve or whatever. But I mean, who has a birthday party at like 7:00 in the morning?
I don't know.
Right? Because it's like 7:00 in the morning at a forest preserve. Like, who has a little girl's birthday party? Whatever. I mean,
Well, they just need to throw a child in there for stakes.
I guess. Yeah. So the uncle is like, shotgunning them, and eventually they get him down. There's just a whole bunch of like death and destruction. Like the helmet cam guy that, we're getting the POV from gets a barbecue fork to the eye.
And you can see it wiggling around.
Yeah, you can see it wiggling around as he's like attacking people later on. And then like later he seems to get like a kind of like, I don't know, like a flash of intelligence, I guess, kind of, sort of. And then he pulls out the barbecue fork.
Yeah.
Kind of realizes the state that he's in and like starts like whimpering. Crawls over to the shotgun and then essentially shoots himself in the head to kill himself.
Right. I think you heard his wife calling again, like heard the voicemail.
Yeah. Something like that.
And he got a moment of human clarity.
Right. Yeah. And that's what, let him pull the fork out of his eye and then shoot him.
Realized that he realized he was a zombie. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And so then, because the shotgun like blew his head off. So the helmet cam like lands next to his head and you get to see his blown up head.
Yeah. I mean, that's pretty much it. Zombie park and attack.
Yeah. That's pretty much it.
Yeah.
You get like at first you get POV of a zombie attack and then you get a POV of the zombie attacking because that person became a zombie.
Yep. It was interesting premise, but
it was interesting. It was interesting to see the zombie POV, I guess, in like a reality type situation. That was interesting enough. Okay, and so the next one is called Safe Haven, and this one felt long. I don't know if it was long. I think it was the longest one.
Oh, it absolutely was the longest one. It definitely felt, yes. It
felt long.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm not saying that it was bad. I'm just saying it felt long compared to the rest of these. It felt long. So it's essentially like investigative journalists are trying to like investigate this like cult, right? And so they're trying to convince the cult leader to let them into the facility, like to film it. Okay, so they can get like the inside scoop on this cult, right? Is more or less what they're trying to do. So they end up convincing this guy that they get to film how the cult looks from his eyes, right? He wants to give a positive spin to his cult, so he invites them to come in. They go through it and there's like weird, creepy stuff of like, classrooms full of kids and like, weird rooms of guys that are all staring at them as they're walking by. It's just kind of odd. And they get to like the cult leader's office and he is like going on and on about like, cult leader type shit, right?
Yeah. That he's what, Papa?
Yeah. Something like that.
And that he's given like the best life possible.
Right. Like I said, it's just like he's spouting cult leader stuff, about how we know, our ways are look weird from the outside, but we're really a big happy family and everybody's here by their own free will, blah, blah, blah. There's like weird kind of insinuations that he's like, assaulting the minor, girls at the very least. Right.
Yeah.
Stuff like that. But like, as soon as they get to like the interview stage, like everybody involved like ends up leaving the room for some reason or another. Like the one lady, investigative journalist, she gets sick like immediately.
Yeah.
And so she leaves. to go throw up. But I think that was just a ruse so she could go and spy around
Yeah,
the
it
compound.
was.
Because then she's like going and like checking out the kids because she's got like a secret camera in her shirt, like a shirt button camera. So she's like looking at the kids and she's like, trying to interview other women and other people that are going on in there. And then the one guy,
He
like,
didn't
later
charge
on,
the batteries.
yeah, he didn't charge the batteries. So then he had to go get batteries, which, yeah, I don't know. And then the other camera guy just like sits there and doesn't say anything for a while. And then eventually he starts talking, but it's like very small talk, stupid stuff.
Yeah, so what do you do here?
Right. Yeah, and essentially there's like a little aside where you find out that the lady reporter and the one guy reporter are having an affair on the other guy reporter.
Yes.
And that she's pregnant with his child because apparently she hadn't had sex with her like husband in months or something.
Correct.
And that's why they had the affair. That's so you're trying to insinuate that that's why they had to have the affair was because they weren't intimate anymore, whatever. And so essentially, things kind of like escalate from there.
A siren goes off, and it's like the all their prep work. It's coming. It's happening. Whatever it is, it's happening right now.
Right. It's like and then that the siren is like the Jonestown alarm.
Yes.
Right. Because then like all the kids start drinking like poison chocolate milk.
Yep.
and they all die. Like all the men all have like guns and they all like shoot themselves in the head.
Except the ones that don't want to be shot, then they get shot in the head by someone else.
Right. Yeah. So it's odd.
Yeah.
And then eventually the one girl finds like this back room of like a woman that had obviously given birth.
Yes.
That appears to be dead, but then wasn't dead. But yeah, so that happens.
He was pretty split open like the queen from House of the Dragon.
So lady is now giving birth to her baby.
Yep.
All the like ladies and Papa are there to like, kind of help her, guide her along. They show like her stomach. She's got like symbols and stuff all over. They show like, I don't know, obviously movement in her stomach or whatever. But I do have to note that it's like the worst CGI, I think, in almost the whole series. It's terrible.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And then they cut back. So, because then there's like a birth scene, but the birth scene is like essentially like this giant like minotaur.
Yes.
Like climbing out of her stomach, but it's obviously like her body on that table looks like a scarecrow. Like her pants look like, they just stuffed them full of like cotton batting, right? I mean, it looks bad.
Yeah.
But anyway, so this thing is like born, and the one guy, the dad of the baby,
yes,
kind of doesn't really witness it. It kind of does. He's like down the hall when it happens,
right?
And he kind of sees what's going on. Like, the Papa like comes out of there and he's all like
it's done.
Covered in symbols and blood and stuff like that. And then he like explodes.
Yeah, saying it's done. It's here.
Right. Yeah. And then he like explodes, and it literally he looks away, and it looks like just somebody took like a bucket of slop and just like threw it down the hallway.
Yeah, that's fair.
I mean, that's what it looks like what happened. Right? Yeah. So yeah, he supposedly exploded, but it just looks like somebody like dumped a bucket of slop down the hallway. Anyway.
Yes.
So the Minotaur thing is like chasing this guy through the compound. And then as he's leaving, we see that like everybody who had died, the children, are now like zombie children.
Mm-hmm.
Like the people that shot themselves are all like zombie people. They're all trying to like attack him, and basically everything else. Everybody else is dead. Papa, well, I guess Papa before he died had killed the one camera guy.
We're dead. The cameramans are dead. They come back to life, attacking him.
Yeah. So yeah, there's like zombies that are coming back. Like all the guys who shot themselves are like kind of back alive and trying to tackle him and stuff like that. He ends up getting out. He gets to the car, and he's like driving away. And it's like, I mean, yeah, there's like all kinds of like bad effects of like explosions and like storms and like all it's supposed to look like the apocalypse is coming. Is my guess,
right?
And then like the big Minotaur thing, lands on the car. He like crashes the car. And he manages to like crawl out the back. And he's like looking into the camera, and then you see the Minotaur guy, crawling over the top, and then he says like, "Papa,
Papa, is that you, Papa?"
yeah."
Yeah.
Saying that like, he was the dad of the Antichrist, more or less.
Correct. Yeah, I alluded is that he just needed his daddy, and that's why he was chasing him down. Like, why, daddy? Right. Why don't you love me?
But yeah, the Minotaur is also like the goofiest looking Minotaur outfit I've ever seen.
Oh yeah, it is Minotaur demon ish thing.
but you could tell like no part of that like head was made to move. So like they just like wiggled the head around to like make it look like it was doing things. It was pretty funny.
If you were putting that costume against Godzilla or other monsters all out attack, he'd fit right in.
Oh yeah, most definitely. It was a goofy looking.
Oh yeah, by far.
I mean, not to take away from it. Yes, it was obviously low budget, but I mean they did pretty well for it being low budget. I would say
it looked better than the new Jeepers Creepers.
That's correct. Yeah,
that's something. They're better than the Jeepers Creepers Reborn.
Yeah. At least the Minotaur wasn't wearing garbage bag clothes,
right?
So that was
safe haven.
That's the end of that. Yeah. And then after that is the Slumber Party Alien Abduction.
Yes.
Which is it starts off as like a bunch of kids like doing pranks and shit.
Yeah.
Just doing goofy stuff. Like they had put their camera on their dog, and they're just
Tank. Tank the dog.
Yeah, right. Tank the dog, who's like a foot tall.
Right.
So they're like pranking each other and stuff, and they obviously have like an older brother or older sister.
Yeah.
I don't know which one of them.
Sister, yeah, one of them.
And like her boyfriend, they were like all making out and trying to get it on, and they like ran in there with like lights and music, like to mess with them. But it was obvious that like parents were not there,
right?
and it was like a free for all kind of thing. So then to try to get them back for doing that, is they go downstairs, and all the guys, the younger brother, his friends have all fallen asleep. And he's like cranking it to like, I don't know what, like Skinamax or something. I don't know what he was watching.
Right.
He was like cranking it. So they send the dog in with the camera on to like film this, to like get him back for, ruining their sexy time.
Right.
And then as that's like happening and they're like arguing over what they're going to do with the tape and everybody's all woken up, then there's like these weird like siren sounds start like happening. And it essentially like these, shapes appear like in the doorway, because all the doors are like made of glass or frosted glass. They're like these vague like humanoid shapes and like these sounds and lights and stuff. And essentially, we find out it's aliens, and they're here to like abduct these children. And it's kind of like like a 1-by-1 type situation where like they get one and the rest of them like run away, and then they run to somewhere else, and then they get one and then they run away again.
And they're on like a dock, and they're just slowly moving in on them.
Yeah, because the one kid, they like jumped in the water, and they somehow got like stuck in a sleeping bag, and he like almost drowned in the sleeping bag
with Tank, and they're with him.
Well, with the dog, right? So when the kid came out, he wasn't breathing, so they had to give him CPR. And as they're giving him CPR, they show the aliens like creeping in.
Yeah.
It goes along, and like I said, it's like 1-by-1. It ends up being the one kid, the younger brother, with the dog up in the attic of the barn. I think the hayloft of the barn.
Yeah.
And then I think the older sister was the last one to go before that.
Yeah.
And then eventually, basically, like they, I don't know, like
Abducted.
beam him up.
Yeah.
Yeah, like they beam him up, and as he's being beamed up, he drops the dog from up, in the sky. And the poor dog like lands down, and then the last thing is the camera fell off the dog, and they show the bloody dog like whimpering on the ground.
Yeah,
it's very sad.
Yeah, they were grays, by the way, grays.
Yes, and then when they did the close up on them a couple of times, they were very clearly just guys in like the like gray skin suits.
Yes.
And that was it. I mean, that was like they looked like they were like guys in gray skin suits wearing like luchador masks.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, it's fair.
I mean, that's what they look. It's very, very, very low budget.
So yeah, bring us home with the final part of the rapper.
Okay, yeah. So the rapper is, she's like watching these tapes. He goes to get aspirin for her because I guess she's known for her migraines. She forgot her migraine medicine. She's got the nosebleed, right, that we mentioned earlier.
All right.
So yeah, he goes to get her some medication. So he leaves to go to the drugstore and leaves her there watching tapes. And then as they've kind of like shown in the background, like something else is like moving around, like someone else is there.
Yeah.
And so like, yeah, he basically comes back, or wait, no, does she watch? No. Yeah. He comes back and she's not there at first.
Correct.
Yeah. And then he like watches, there was another movie that was on a laptop. So he does that, and it's like the guy who's the kid he was looking for, and he's talking about how he was like, it sounds like he's talking to like some kind of like group, like a, whatever, like a Reddit group or subreddit,
like
something
he's
like
making
that.
his own video.
Right. Well, yeah, he's making his own video, but talking to other people that have obviously know what this video is and what he's describing.
Right.
So he's doing his own version of this video. Then he's talking about like watching the videos in a certain order is going to cause something to happen, and he's trying to avoid that by watching them in out of order or something, whatever. He's kind of alluding to that. But then they show him like shooting himself in the chin,
and his jaw just gone.
Yeah, his jaw like explodes out, and it ends up looking like weird mandibles like hanging down. And then it's like, and then he like wakes up, like kind of gets back up with like, obviously he's all messed up. And then that's when you hear the people coming in the back window. So we realize that this happened like a minute before they broke into the
right. And then they show
house,
them looking into that stack, and then they're in front of the laptop that was recorded.
Right. So yeah, like that, he shot himself literally like a minute before they came in.
Yeah.
And then at that point, yeah. So yeah, then
well, she's dead.
Yeah. Well, she's dead, and then it ends up
she comes
the guy
back
with
too,
the mandibles comes back, and then I guess takes out the private eye guy. They don't really clarify as to what's happening there, but yeah, private eye guy gets attacked, whatever.
Yeah, and she comes back too after dying.
Yes,
so it's zombies
correct.
again, essentially.
Yeah,
or
they're like video trance zombies,
right? So you probably saw this as well when it came out. What was your first thought?
Yeah,
on it.
I liked it. I mean, I think it's ever so slightly weaker than the first one, but I mean, it's still a strong. Like it's obviously still going great in here. There's not any like standout bad shorts here.
Yeah.
They're all pretty good in their own way.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, I think this is another strong showing. Like at this point, I was really hoping that it was going to end up being a thing because I really liked the format.
Oh yeah.
And I really like the shorts. You get like little stories made by different people. You get to see different, visions from like, even different countries and stuff. Different languages and stuff. And it was interesting. It was like it was branching out, and I thought it was going to be, a cool kind of, anthology franchise moving forward.
Oh, absolutely.
So,
absolutely.
I was excited after watching this one.
Absolutely agree. I know the wife. She didn't want to watch these at first because she thought they're going to be very gruesome. And when she's watching these with me, she goes, "Oh, these aren't anything like." Yeah, the gruesome isn't really bad at all.
I mean, to be fair, some of them are pretty bad, but it's like low budget bad. Like
right.
they tried making it really bad, but it's like it's low budget enough to where you can tell it's not real.
Right. Yeah. So, rewatch. Did you learn anything new on the rewatch?
No. I mean, there's not a whole lot to miss. I don't remember the rapper at all on this one. Like, in the first one, I barely remember it. Like, I remember the guy being in the room and then the guy coming, leaving the room, the dead guy. And this one, I don't remember that at all. I don't remember any part of that rapper, but I remember all of the shorts. So it's weird. I don't know.
The only one for me in the rewatch that I didn't recall the best was the Slumber Party alien abduction. And there might be a reason for that.
Yeah, that one. I mean, I remembered that one because like alien abduction stuff was always something that I was, scared of when I was younger.
Right.
So I remembered that one. You probably don't remember it, but like a long time ago when I was like a kid, maybe high school age, There was like this made for TV kind of movie.
Fire in the Sky?
And no, kind of sort of similar though.
Okay.
Like Fire in the Sky was like obviously a movie,
Yeah.
right? But this one was like they kind of sold it as like a found footage type thing. And it was supposed to be like, oh, we found this footage of this family that disappeared, and we found this video footage, and we're going to show it to you, and we're going to find out the mystery of this family together, kind of thing, right? So they played it, and it was like a typical like family, and then they got like kind of trapped in their house by like aliens, right? Essentially,
Yeah.
And it was like there's this. I don't remember all of it, but I remember these. There's a couple of key scenes that I remember, and one of the scenes I remember is that the dad and like I don't remember if it was his son or the daughter's boyfriend or whatever, but it was like younger but old enough kid. And they like get their guns, because of course this was like a farmhouse in the middle of nowhere. So they get their guns and they hear stuff in the attic. Like they're confident that whatever is happening has gotten into the house and is in the attic. And they go up to the door for the attic, and there's like very obviously something right behind the door, and they just shoot through the door, and then as they shoot through the door, and then they like open up the door, and like this weird like light hits them, and then the dad just like creepily like turns and goes, "Oh, there's nothing up here. We should go back downstairs," like in this weird like monotone voice, and it's like, whoa. So they go back downstairs and they like pretend like nothing happened.
Huh.
And then the only other part I remember after that is like, the people are getting like abducted one by one. And then the very end of it is like the one kid is left and he like goes into his room to like hide. And then like, but he's like staring down the hallway to like, cause he thinks the aliens are down the hallway. And then as he's looking, like the door closes and you see like the alien was standing right behind the door, like in the shadows. And then it walks towards the kid, and you get kind of like a close up of the alien, and then that's when it ends. I mean, it was obviously a movie. It's not. I know it's not real, and I knew it wasn't real at that time, but it freaked me out a lot, and it really, really reminded me of this.
I remember that.
I don't like I said. I remember watching it when I was a kid.
Late 80s.
Yeah, probably around that.
Was
time.
it
late 80s?
Is it the McPherson tape?
I don't know. I have no idea what the name of it is. I just know that's what it was, and it kind of freaked me out at the time because I was like, I didn't like aliens abducting me in my house kind of thing,
Yeah.
like that freaked me out, and that was just kind of like the pinnacle of that. It was made for TV. It wasn't very well made.
Oh,
but it was just enough to like trigger that paranoia fear in my brain, and this just kind of reminded me of it.
that's fair. Yeah.
So I don't know if you remember that, or I don't know if anybody that listens to this will remember that.
You talking about that? I remember watching that. I'd have been really young though.
Yeah, I mean, I was youngish too at the time. Like I said, it was like this is like middle school ish time period.
Yeah,
or maybe high school. But
we'll have to find that.
Yeah. But I just remember that. I don't know why, but yeah, watching this for the second time, it like triggered that memory.
Huh. All right, so what's your best story on this?
Best one in this one is gonna be Phase 1. That's the one with the cyborg guy. Just because I thought it was just this just a cool concept. Kind of like I like the technology kind of crossing with supernatural. I think that's a really cool angle.
Yeah,
that doesn't really get. There's a lot of technology getting out of hand and doing bad things and taking people over, but there's not a whole lot of technology crossing over with supernatural, right?
Yeah.
And I just like that angle. I thought it was cool. I thought it was well done. There was shocks and twists in the little 10-minute thing that there was there, but it was good. I thought it was definitely the best of the bunch.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. It is very reminiscent of, The Eye. Do you remember that with it was a J horror originally, and then Jessica Alba was in the American remake.
No, I didn't watch it.
Okay, it's very good. It's definitely the most interesting, obviously, kind of cyberpunk-ish, implant stuff like that. So yeah, definitely, I agree with you. The best story.
Or Body Parts. Do you ever see that?
Oh yeah.
It was like the guy got like arms and legs, I think, transplanted onto him.
Yeah.
But it was from like a death row inmate right before he got killed, and then like slowly the limbs like start taking him over.
Yeah, Simpsons made fun of that in one of their Halloween specials. Homer gets a hairpiece. That was
the Hell to Pay. What was that from?
that's Treehouse of
Was that
Horror.
a Twilight Zone?
Was it?
No, there was a live action one that they were making fun of.
Oh, maybe.
It was at the very end. It was saying "hell to pay," and they all thought he meant like hell to pay. Like,
Yeah.
There's going to be hell to pay. Like he's going to get people back, but he was actually saying hell to pay, as in like the hairpiece.
Yeah.
So like the hairpiece was the evil thing that made him do it, because like it would go on his head and the like little worms would go into his brain and control him.
Yeah.
I don't remember what it was from though, but I remember that.
All right. So what about weakest?
I'm having a lot of flashbacks today. I'm sorry.
All right. So what about weakest story for you on this one?
Weakest one for me is A Ride in the Park. And that's probably a personal thing because I'm like a Romero purist. I really don't like when zombies do things that are not zombie-like things. And like, zombie like having that moment of clarity.
Of human clarity.
Being able to of human clarity to like, oh, I'll just pull this barbecue fork out of my head and then commit suicide because I realize what I've become. Like that's not zombie.
Correct. I agree with that. I mean,
I know that's my own nitpicky thing. I know a lot of people have different versions of zombies that they like, and different zombies do different kinds of things. I get that. Just in my world, even Romero doesn't fully share my Romero purist views because he had zombies that evolved and did things on their own. Was it Bob? Like later on. Yeah, like Bob and Day of the Dead, or in like Land of the Dead when they were like learning tactics and learning how to like shoot and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that like even in Romero's world, the zombies did things that I don't agree with. Even though again, Romero is like he's the king of zombies. And, I'm trying to say I'm a Romero purist, but again, even Romero did that kind of stuff. So I'm like a Romero like Night of the Living Dead purist.
Right, that's fair.
I'm gonna live in that world of that first.
That's fair. Yeah. For me was the slumber party alien abduction. The costumes were so bad. That they were so bad. Like it was like the grays, like the Spirit Halloween grays from like the 90s. That's what it felt like. And honestly, it in my head, I don't understand why you would brother and sister would do that, trying to catch them having sex or jerking off or anything like that. That just doesn't, it's just very weird dynamic. And I said, and then they're going down that pier and it took them like 5 minutes to go down the pier when they can just clearly beam people up.
I know. They were building suspense, man. They got 10 minutes to build suspense. They're limited.
Yeah. So for you, how many broken VCRs out of 10?
For this one, like I said, it's almost as good as the first one. It's like I said, it's just that smidgen under as good as the first one was. So this one I will give 7 broken VCRs.
7? Yeah. I mean, it was pretty spot on. I'm going to an 8. Just 1 point lower. Or 1 broken VCR less.
Right.
All right. So let's get into VHS Viral or the end of the Unholy Trilogy. Because this is
Q size now.
Yeah, this is this killed it for a while. A good 8 years.
Fair.
I don't even know how to go about this one. We'll start with we'll start with the rapper a little bit, right? So it's a guy trying to get his girlfriend to she got naked for the camera, and he's trying to like film everything so he can go viral on the internet. That was his whole idea. And there's like an ice cream truck chase going through their town. He's like, I gotta get this. So that's his entire plot for recording and all this stuff. And that's what he's doing. He's chasing it, and it's like his girlfriend kind of just disappears and ends up in the ice cream truck, I guess, at one point.
Yeah, she gets like hit by
it.
But instead of like getting like flung across the street, she like ends up inside the truck. I don't know how that works.
Right. So then there's really not anyone watching, like, this, the premise is even different. Like, there's only 3 stories in this. More of the rapper in this, and the rapper is called Vicious Circles. Okay. But we'll get into the first one, which is Dante the Great.
It's okay. So he's essentially a trailer trash magician.
Yes. Kids party,
so he's like doing like
party magician.
Yeah. Not even that level. Like, he's literally doing card tricks on a garbage can, like, in front of his house. Like, he's like literally living in a trailer park. So he's like, he's a wannabe magician. But he's obviously bad at it.
Correct.
And then he ends up getting this cloak
that even Houdini was afraid to use. And we actually got a throwaway line for lore background of this cape, which is pretty cool for this. But
yeah. right. Yeah. So like, all of a sudden he gets this cape, and then he's like the greatest magician ever.
Like, does real magic.
Right. Yeah. He literally does real magic. And we see like, scenes and stuff where he's, doing stuff like he's grabbing a rabbit from across the room. Like this cloak has like trans-dimensional properties to where he can like, pull things from across the room. And they show like footage of like people that have gone to his shows, and they're like, oh, it's so amazing. Like, hey, he pulled me, out of my seat in New York, and we ended up in LA, and like, I mean, just goofy stuff like that.
Right.
Like, this is the level of
like,
magic.
I'm in LA. I'd be pissed.
Yeah. I would be extremely pissed too. But, so essentially he goes from like, a guy that can't even do card trick right to a guy that's like the greatest magician in the world.
Correct.
And essentially, they start talking about how there's like, mystery surviving, around him, because like some of his assistants are disappearing.
Right. So the cops are interviewing his newest assistant,
right,
partner, whatever you want to call,
right,
and just saying, hey, he records all his stuff, of course.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah. So she goes and checks out his like secret room that she had found that has all these like tapes in it,
which is like an electrical box that someone would just push down, and there's like 10 tapes there or something.
Yeah, something like that. So she watches the tapes, and she finds out that he's essentially there was tapes in there of like him practicing like dangerous stuff, and him like burning down buildings because he's practicing with fire effects and stuff. But of course the big thing is that you watch some of these movies, and it's, his like assistants, or, like people that like upset him or that he was trying to get rid of. But essentially the cloak is like alive, and the cloak like demands blood sacrifice.
It's the cape that eats.
Right. Yes. Yeah. So essentially he like,
eats,
right. So like, yeah, he like throws the cape on top of them, and then the cape like eats them.
Right.
So that's how he gets his power. And unless he feeds the cape, the cape can withhold its power from him.
Correct.
Essentially, she finds all this stuff out. And then she goes and tells the police, and the police at first they raid, and they were able to catch him.
Right.
And then he's like trying to defend himself. And when he realizes that he can no longer defend himself, he's actually getting arrested. He just pulls, magic from his cape, to escape. But then he ends up, like a confrontation to where he like just kills the shit out of a whole bunch of cops.
Right.
That are chasing. And then like at the very end, you think he finally gets shot. And then he pulls
a great reveal,
a magician move. Yeah. And he was actually had switched places with one of the cops, and like, they shot their own cop in his clothes, and then he was one of the SWAT cops with the helmet.
Hold for applause.
Right. Yeah. But because he did that, the cape was now on this other cop. So his assistant got the cape. And then essentially she turned it around on him and had the cape eat him.
Correct.
And then at the very end, they show her like trying to destroy the cape by burning it. And then the very last scene is she opens up her closet, and the cape is back.
Dun, dun, dun.
Yeah. So you can't kill the cape, and the cape needs blood. So.
Right. It's like that. It's like deathbed, the bed that eats, but it's death cape, the cape that eats.
Right. Yeah. It's essentially what it is.
All right, so the next one is called Parallel Monsters.
Yep.
It's it's not in English, it's Spanish.
Mhm.
And essentially, the quick background is there's a guy who's clearly a scientist that's trying to work on some great thing, and his wife's like, hey, finish up for the night, come to bed. It's getting late, blah blah blah. You've been down here forever. And he's recording it because he creates a doorway, a door to another world, and it's the kind of the classic trope of like the paradox. If someone creates a box of different dimension or a parallel universe, someone in that parallel universe does the same thing. So he holds like this like garage door grating, like the metal grating, on shops and stuff like that. And he opens up and there's something on the other side, and it's him who's also recording his experiment at the same time.
Right.
So there's back and forth. They're like, hey, the other him, the parallel him comes through. It's like, oh wow, everything's different. It's like, what we should do? We should switch places for 15 minutes. Let's meet back here in 15 minutes, which like the runtime of the movie. And,
right.
he's like, yeah, let's do that. We see him go through and he's like, oh, everything's reversed. It's mirrored. So he has to go, right instead of left where it was. And he's just kind of going through, but we get the parallel him first. He's looking at that scene like, oh man, walking up the stairs, there's a picture of him and his wife married, and he just kind of watches his parallel wife for a little bit. And then we cut to the guy that we're following, and he's like, oh, instead of that picture of there was what was it? Just like a ruin or a symbol or something like that? That was in the...
Yeah, it looked like a ritual circle.
Yeah,
like written on the ground in chalk, like that you'd normally do, like a demon summoning kind of circle.
And so his parallel wife goes, hey, you're up. I didn't know if you're gonna make it. Everyone's ready. They sit down, and there's like a sack full of something bloody in the room. There's two other guys there, like. Yeah.
Well, yeah, it was like they were trying to play it off as like he was gonna like watch them get it on,
right?
Because these dudes looked like gigolo type of guys,
right? And they both had the same first name because I think they were American.
Well, I think that was just like the fake gigolo name.
Yeah.
So they sit down on the couch. The wife sits down in the middle of them, and you're like, oh no, we're gonna watch this like really awkward like threesome foursome, right? And then she goes and gets like this bag of meat that's like hanging by a noose from a weird like wire like kind of holder thing. Yeah. And she sets it down, and they're all like, and she's all like, oh, my husband really, really likes to go first. Go ahead, honey.
Right. He's like, I don't know what to do,
Yeah, and he's just like staring, like, what am I supposed to do with a bag of meat that's hanging?
Right. Another guy's like, oh, this isn't happening. If this isn't happening, we're out of here. And they leave, and he goes and confronts them. And meanwhile, do we see what they look like first, or what the parallel guy does next?
We see the parallel guy because we cut to him, and he's like taking weird pictures of her like sleeping in bed. Like he's obviously like getting off on it or something. Like, he's getting his jollies like taking pictures of her. And then he like creepily moves over to like her head, and he's like messing with his pants, and you're like, oh no, like what is he doing?
And then we get alien sock puppet penis theater.
Yeah. It's like this weird looking like puppet demon penis thing,
right?
With like a mouth on the end of it,
right? It looks like like the sock puppet that people would do for like creatures that like you'd move around their head, and this is what it looked like, but it's his penis. And so like, okay, that's weird. But then I think we get back to our main guy, and he's confronting the guys, and like he realizes like the sky is really different out there. It's like very demonic, I would say the world is.
Yeah.
And what they're
and there's like a big blimp with an upside down cross flying
and
by.
Don't their eyes start glowing?
Yeah. Essentially, it seems like whenever your demon penis comes out, your eyes glow.
Right. Well, of course. I mean, doesn't everyone's eyes glow when their alien penis comes out?
I mean, yeah.
So he kind of like he kills them, right? Doesn't he chop off their alien penises?
I believe so.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, it's kind of left up to the imagination, but yeah, he like attacks them in some way, shape, or form, and then gets away.
Right, and he gets back in. His parallel life's like, well, if I saw you out there. If you just wanted to do it with them, you could have told me, and you're not hurting my pride, And then she starts to realize something wrong and starts to have sex time, and she has the alien vagina.
Right. Yeah, like that starts like midway through her chest.
Right.
I was like all the way down. It's like this big, giant, toothy maw.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he freaks and runs,
Yep.
and so he runs down to the doorway. And then he runs through the doorway, and then he meets his other counterpart, and he's like covered in blood.
Yeah. And he thought he did something to his wife, so.
Right. So yeah. So he stabs him, or they fight and kill, or he kills him with a screwdriver.
Right. And he closes he doesn't close the doorway, does he? He does. And then the wife, thinking that's the alien penis version of him, kills him.
Mm-hmm. Right. Then she comes down, and he's like, "Oh man, I thought you were dead. Like the guy came down covered in blood. Like I thought you were done."
Right.
And then she just stabs him with it.
She's like, "I don't want your alien sock puppet penis."
Well, yeah, I mean that's fair,
right? And that's that movie. The last one, Boonstorm. It's essentially it's a group of kids in Tijuana, Mexico. I believe it's Tijuana, and they're like skateboarders. They're filming all their sick tricks and all the stuff in the empty spillway, which is very popular for skateboarders. And then all of a sudden there's like people watching them, and the best way I can describe this is Hispanic death cult versus skateboarders. Like they kill like the guy who had the camera or something, like the quiet guy. They kill, like this death cult starts killing, and they start going around trying to like summon something, and they start attacking the other skateboarders, and they're just skateboarding and just like slashing them and like killing them easily one by quick decapitations, because decapitations are so quick.
Right, and also like the one skateboarder had a gun.
Yeah, he's a bam, 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 bam.
Right, I was like, oh, okay. Like last time I checked, the skateboarder community doesn't carry guns around with them.
Well, he has to, because he was like one bullet, one kill while skateboarding, so he has to have practice with this.
Apparently.
And so what? Then it ends up being like, oh, it's like, hey man, it's your sister, and it's like just Lady Death essentially. It was lost something. I thought they said it.
I don't know.
But essentially, then everyone that died comes back as a zombie, and he has to go back and start killing them again. And eventually they just kill them all with skateboarders. I mean, am I missing anything here that's worthwhile?
And that's worthwhile.
No. So we'll get back to the wrapper of this. Eventually we see a guy trying to get onto the ice cream truck. His feet get shredded on the asphalt.
Yeah. And then his feet like fall off, apparently, after a while.
Yeah. So yeah, and we get like a couple interludes of like a barbecue, and guys like, hey, I just got out of jail, and then like get stabbed, and stuff like that. And eventually, the main guy who's trying to be viral is like his girlfriend's like, she was in the ice cream truck. She's like, don't you remember me? Like revenge porn type scenario. You're like, you made me famous. Let's see yours. The truck crashes. The guy finds it, and he finds a stack of TVs and VCRs. And she's like saying, hey, hit the upload button. Hey, hit the upload button. And she starts smashing her head into the wall off screen to hit it. He hits it, and we see glimpses of all the other of VHS 1 and 2 and this. All these tapes have been now broadcast, uploaded to the internet, and he goes outside and like helicopters are crashing, like the world's ending, and sees his girlfriend's been dead this entire time with a phone recording jammed into her mouth. And this is how the trilogy ends.
Yeah.
On
that
note. Now, I watched this when it came out, and I don't think I particularly liked it then. I don't think I particularly liked it on the rewatch. Was this your first time seeing it that you recall?
Yeah, I had not seen this one before. And again, I'm just kind of averse to the term viral when it comes to like, videos and the internet and kind of stuff. So I just really, I thought it was going to go the YouTube like route. Yeah. And I was just kind of dreading that. And I didn't hear good things about it. So I just kind of avoided it. And apparently my intuition was correct. So.
I mean, I watched it, so I go, it's the third one, I have to watch it because I'm a completionist, as you know. So I'm like, I had to watch it at that time. Definitely not on my rewatch list again, probably ever.
Yeah, no, that's fair.
So for me, I mean, we only have really 3 stories, and they really padded with Rapper. This is obviously the shortest movie of the 5 that we have. But for me, kind of the best story is Parallel Monsters. Like, up until the alien sock puppet penis, the premise was amazing. I love the idea. And that's why it has to go with my best story, because, as a whole, said we're only picking 3. Like, I don't think anything was so strong in the beginning like Parallel Monsters was.
No, yeah, it started off strong. It just like as soon as that alien penis came up, it just like I mean, it just took a stupid turn,
right? But of the entirety of it, it was only like 10% was just awful.
No, it was more than 10.
20%. 33. All right, 33. So yeah, like I said, the idea of it, the science, I like that a lot. Obviously, I love science, as you do too, and the idea of the parallel worlds, I thought was just had the best potential for me in all 3 of these.
Mm-hmm.
What about for you?
The best one for me is going to be Dante the Great, and that is simply because it's just goofy, it's fun. It doesn't take itself too seriously. It understands that it's a goofy premise, but it's fun. It approaches it in a good way. It tells its story, quickly, clearly. I mean, it's just a goofy, fun little story. And I really like that. Compared to the other ones, I just felt like this one was just better.
Do you think they're taking a shot at David Blaine?
No, because he wasn't as monotone as David Blaine.
Is this your cape? No, look into it more. That's fair. I think we can pretty much agree what the weakest story is the Bone Storm one.
Yeah, it's just, man, I mean, maybe if you were like into the skateboarder, like, world at that time or something, you might enjoy it. I don't know. It was just annoying to me. It's like the way that they talk. They just talk like these burnout stoner guys.
Yes.
And then all of a sudden they were like, the best at murdering people. I don't know. It just the whole tone of the whole thing was just odd and weird. I didn't.
Yeah, like I said, and really, for as we said before, we're not picking the rappers as the stories because the rapper is pretty awful too. I don't know. Would you have picked rapper if we include that as a weakest story?
No,
still.
Well, as the weakest, no. I don't. Yeah, I think I disliked Bone Storm less than the rapper, but the rapper is closed. I mean, the rapper on this one doesn't make a whole lot of sense.
Right.
I mean, because they literally throw in other stories. I mean, there's the whole, like you said, that revenge porn thing.
Yeah.
There's the whole, like gangsters at the barbecue.
Right.
I mean, these are all included in the rapper. Like, I mean, like the ice cream truck speeds by these scenes. So they're included in the rapper and they don't fit there at all.
Right.
It's like they had nothing else for the rapper. So they just started putting other stories in there. It was very weird.
I find that, I mean, for the first 2 being such strong outings that, like, the third one just died and it killed the franchise for 8 years.
Yeah, I don't know what happened. I don't know if it just wasn't the right people weren't involved or what happened, but it was just not good.
Yeah. Man, for me, how many broken VCRs out of 10? I'm 4. How about for you?
Yeah, I mean that's fair. I mean, I'll also go 4. Yeah, I mean it would be 3 if Dante the Great wasn't there.
I
said Dante the Great was good enough for me to chuckle a couple times, so I'll give it.
I mean, if there wasn't the alien sock penis and it was just more of parallel world, would that have raised it more for you?
Yeah, I think so. I mean that could have very easily been interesting. I mean, like you could have pretty much done anything else other than weird penis, and it probably would have been a good story. I don't know what that guy was. I mean, again, this is just a short little story. You know, I don't know what story he really wanted to tell, but
well, if it was purely Antichrist as versus the Christian world, I think that would have been, as we discussed, you know, earlier today off this, that it would have been a better story.
It would have been a better story. It would have been a better or an interesting world to see, like what it would have been if instead of Christianity being the dominant religion,
right,
it would have been Satanism being the dominant religion. I think that would have been interesting. I don't know what branch off humanity would have had to give them demon penises. I don't and like weird toothy maw vaginas. I don't understand how that works, but
yeah, just it's a big leap from like Satanism to that.
Right.
Oh
yeah, it just felt very, very out of place, and it felt like it was like some guy's weird like fetish or something that he just wanted to put on film. I don't know what was going on.
Yeah, that's a great question. All right, so let's get into our next one, VHS 94, which came out last year. I think this time last year, I believe only on Shudder. This became a Shudder exclusive.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
So yeah, so we'll get in. The rapper is kind of just we'll start with the premise of it. It's just kind of a SWAT team called into like a facility, and they're trying to investigate what's going on. They were called to like a cult call or something like that.
Yeah, I think that's what they got called into, which again is there's a lot of inconsistencies there. Don't get me wrong. I did enjoy this rapper. I'm not trying to take it down, but like the government organization that deals with cults would have been the ATF.
Right.
Not the police.
Correct.
And these guys were very clearly SWAT.
Yes.
Also, number 2 is the SWAT team never gets called in alone.
Right.
The SWAT team may enter alone, but they are never alone on scene. There is always other police on scene. There's always like a mobile command center on scene when the SWAT is called in. Like it's not when the SWAT gets called in, something terrible, terrible, terrible has happened, right? Or they think is going to happen.
Yeah.
There's always a lot of police there. And this is just odd that the SWAT team is there and they enter the building completely alone.
Yes.
There's no one supporting them at all, which is odd. Again, I do like the rapper story. I'm not going to diss on it. I'm just saying it just felt very out of place to me immediately.
Right. And essentially what they're doing is they're going through the facility and they're seeing all these tapes playing on TV. So at least we have a reason for the different disjointed stories. We got to give them that, which we didn't get, well enough until the van scene of Viral.
Yeah. No, yeah, there wasn't a whole lot of reason. They just showed like other people like watching stuff on their phone, and that's like how the other scenes got cut in. It was very jarring.
So let's get into the first story, which is titled Storm Drain. Very, we're alive in the 90s. We were not watching news on purpose in 94, but it's set up as an exhibition story. A woman reporting of who they're calling the Rat Man living in the sewers, and she goes, and it's almost very reminiscent of Chud. Right, the news story of these creatures or whatever, this guy underground. And she's going down there with her camera guy and stuff like that, and she finds a pretty dirty guy. He's like black and just filth.
Right.
They're like, oh, this is where he sleeps. And he's like, are you the Rat Man? He's like, motion of him to follow him. They get kind of deeper into the sewer, right? And seeing a couple of other people. They're talking about like, hey, we can help you out. We want to share your story. Can you talk to us? And then all of a sudden, like this pristine dressed man comes out. He's like almost like a youth pastor.
Yeah.
Very much so, right? And he's like,
yeah, that's the vibe.
Yeah, like, how can you help these people? We don't need help. We're good the way we are. And talking about like, oh, you're talking about Rat Man. Oh, that's not the Rat Man. It's Rat Ma. And you have to see, essentially they worship him, and Rat Ma determines who's worthy and who's not. So they call it Rat Ma, and a creature, very big rat, alien hybrid thing, right, comes out, and like they're holding her cameraman, and he spits like bile onto the cameraman, and his face just starts melting off like it's acid. And she's like, okay, you're next, and she kind of goes there, and she gets the bile, and she's fine. She's chosen by Ratma. And then there's kind of like a little rescue scene. He's like, hey, you're reporting on this. What did you find? What did you report? And she keeps inserting Ratma into every sentence, like in weird places. All hail Ratma. And she then spits bile on her co-anchor, and his face melts off, and she just looks into the camera.
Hail
Ratma. So, I mean, it was a good story. It was very, to me, reminiscent of like the reporting part of The Howling.
Yeah, that's fair.
So yeah, I mean, like I said, we'll get into our thoughts and stuff. But yeah, it's pretty strong opening story.
Yeah, but yeah, the actress that plays the reporter, I like her a lot. She's been in a lot of other stuff. I think the two most memorable to me was she was in Defiance,
yeah,
and The Expanse, like two of my favorite.
And you said she replayed the reporter. Was it Monica
in The Expanse?
Monica in The Expanse, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, she's probably the first notable person that we recognized in any of these.
Yeah, I can remember. I don't remember anybody else. So yeah.
Right. So, still SWAT teams kind of going around at this point. Blah blah blah. Right. The next movie we get into is The Empty Wake. A seemingly like first night per employee there. Someone's having an overnight. Why can't I think of it? Wake. Yeah, that makes sense. It's in the title. An all-night wake, and the two caretakers, the people are in charge are going, hey, just have they want the cameras rolling, they want music playing. We don't expect anyone, but don't call us. Whatever you do, don't call us.
Right.
Just this is what they want. They're paying us good money, so just here's the tapes and here's all the stuff. If anyone comes in, let them in. Blah blah blah. While they're talking, they're like, "Oh, I didn't move that. The casket seemed out of place. Like, let's put it back in place." And so she's sitting there. She's kind of talking to her friends, and it's starting to storm out pretty well outside. And she hears like a thud in the casket. She's like, "Oh my gosh, he's alive!" And she's like, "Okay." She calls the guy. He's like, "I assure you, in the state he was in, he is dead."
Right.
Do not call us again. So that's weird. And then a person does show up to the wake. And she's like, oh, hey. She's like, oh, then she gets their professional things like, how'd you know him? Is this his uncle or something like that?
So he never actually answers.
No?
Yeah. She says like, well, how did you know him? Are you like his grandfather or his uncle or something? And he just walks forward. He doesn't answer the question.
And he starts saying stuff. I don't think we understand what he's saying.
He is, I believe he is casting a spell in a different language.
Okay.
Because he's like sitting there and he's like doing this like chanting language kind of thing. And he's also moving his hands like subtly, like he's like casting a spell kind of thing.
Yeah. And then he just kind of goes, okay, and leaves.
Yeah. He's like, okay, I'm done.
Right.
And then walks out.
She calls her friend saying this, no one showed up. Oh, except this one. That's really, really weird. All that jazz. And then she hears more of a commotion and the casket falls down and he comes out.
Well, no, it actually, like, when she's looking at it and has the camera on it, it, like, bangs loudly and it, like, you can physically see it move. And at that point, she freaks and tries to run out the front door, and then that's when she finds out that the front door has been chained shut.
Yeah.
And so she can't get out. And then when she goes back to the room, then the casket is now laying on the ground and it's open.
Right.
And the body is not.
Correct. And we eventually see the guy who's missing half his face, half his head.
Right.
And clearly can't see because he's just kind of looking around the air quotes, but clearly she's like, oh, he can't see me. Then she makes a noise. He's able to hear and kind of pinpoint. He starts kind of chasing her.
Well, okay, yeah, because she makes the out loud statement of, "Oh, he can't see
right,"
me," and then immediately starts screaming.
Yes,
like every time she moves, she screams. So, like, the thing is, yeah, of course it's going to find you.
Right, and then we do see the camera kind of does show. Well, she's like tricking him with the sounds. Stuff like that, half of his head, and like they show panning it back and forth like 3 times. Finally, the third time, the eye opens and just kind of looks at her, and then a tornado essentially comes through.
Well, it looks at her, and then it kind of insinuates that now the whole body can see
right,
her. And so it comes running at her, and then that's when there's like the big bang, like.
The tornado, the funeral home kind of gets destroyed,
right?
So that happens and it kind of clears up, and she's kind of shaken up, and then sees her kind of jerkily moving and goes out the window. I took it as implication that she herself was now a zombie.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of what they were going for. I mean, it does have an open interpretation ending.
Yeah.
To where it literally could mean, she is or isn't. I mean, she went through a shock, so she may have become a zombie, or maybe she was just in shock and not. I mean, who knows? It's left open. It doesn't.
Right. Answer. So no, it was okay episode. Even before between the empty wake and the subject, I wanted to say what's going on with the rapper. It's because they're going around, and like I feel like the SWAT team guy was pulling off his best Bill Paxton in Aliens. When they're seeing all these dead bodies, and they're like, "We don't need backup. We need a gravedigger."
We need a grave.
Right. And I'm just like, all right. Like that guy was like so excited for that one line. You could really tell he was trying to beat Bill Paxton in Aliens.
Well, I mean, and to be fair, they probably also had a note in the script, say this like Hudson from Aliens. So
yeah. So we get into the next one, which is called The Subject. It is Indonesian, so it's foreign. We kind of see a doctor talking about his we open up with a guy who just kind of wakes up and he's looking around, and he's just a head on spider legs, and starts freaking out and like starts sparking and like essentially dies. And then we get the recording of a doctor talking about his test subjects, that he's doing all the stuff. He's going to leave part of the cortex intact in the female subject 99, but not intact in the male subject 98. So he's recording. It's like talking about like the imbeciles, the nitwits wouldn't understand what I'm doing. This is the greatest thing ever. Soon everyone will see how great I am. And so he starts going to this woman and like starts comically slashing at the back of her head with like the saw, and blood spurting. Well, the guy kind of wakes up that's next to it and starts like struggling, and like he ejects him with something. And this happens on August 1st, 1994. I know that because I was then 10. That's just stuck with me. And it shows the next recording is like October 10th of 1994. So he's been working on them for a couple of months. She kind of wakes up and she's like, "Hey, do you see me?" Nod your head, yes. Stuff like that. Use your eyes. And she kind of looks down, and she has her left hand is intact and chained kind of to the bed, but her right hand is missing. I'm trying to think what happens next. Is that when the cops come in?
Yeah, well, she tries to escape. Yeah. Like she tries like wiggling around and trying to escape, and then he kind of gets upset and is like disappointed that she's trying to leave. And then he like injects her with something and she falls asleep or passes out.
Yeah.
And then when she wakes back up again is when the cops show.
Yeah, so cops raid the place essentially, going, "This is the guy," like, "Oh, people, she's subject 99, so there's at 98's there 97 people in front of them missing that he took. There are test subjects of it, and he's like, "Hey, you guys don't understand my work. This is very important," and they just blow him away with guns. We realize, and then they go, "Hey, we found the girl that's been missing." And like the leader, the sergeant, or whatever you want to call him, he goes, "We don't want to bring this back to her family." And so she kind of starts, and the subject 98 starts going on a rampage.
Yeah. They go up to her because she was out like covered with a sheet or something. Even though she could see totally fine, she was like covered with a sheet. So they pull the sheet off of her, and then they're like, "Oh man, that's what we don't want to send her back to her family." And then they assume that she's dead because she's not moving.
Okay.
And then they move on, and then they see the other guy, strapped to the chair. And then as they're going to the other guy like wakes up and like stabs him with his knife hand, or whatever, sword hand, whatever it is. And then she like starts moving, and they also try to kill her, but she escapes.
Yes,
because the big guy is killing people, so she like uses that distraction to escape.
Right, and she's kind of sweet, and one guy that didn't want to just immediately kill her.
Right,
and then they try, and
he was,
and then they try escaping.
He was the only guy that was trying to say, "Don't kill her." Right?
Yeah, don't kill her. And they were trying to escape, and they realize like they're trapped in there, and like the doctor's recording voice is overheard saying, "You're now trapped in here." They try throwing a grenade at the door and blow 3 of them up.
Well, I think that was a trap.
Okay.
The one in the door, I believe, was a trap.
Okay.
Because like the alarm went off, and then like the doctor's voice said, like, "Oh, if you hear this message, that means that the facility's been breached and I'm dead." Yeah. So I think they tried to leave, and then there was a bomb trap.
Okay.
But yeah, essentially, it's like what happens is like the cops get slaughtered by this sword hand monster guy.
Right, and she doesn't like that, and she stops sword hand guy because he was going to kill the guy that was kind of like didn't want to kill her right away.
Right.
And like she's powering up and trying to fight through these things, and you see her battery getting low. She eventually rips the brain out of his body.
Yep. Yeah, that was like a weird scene in the middle there where she gets like this weird gun hand, and she's like shooting a bunch of cops with her gun hand. But I mean, but their like gun effects are like kind of laughably bad. But it's still fun. I mean, it's funny. Their gun effects are so bad, but like the CGI for like their robot bodies and stuff was pretty good.
Oh yeah. Yeah, and I mean,
it was like a mix of CGI and practical effects, but it was pretty good.
I think she sees herself in the mirror. Essentially, she's a video camera for her head.
Yeah, essentially, it's like essentially from like like the top of her jaw. So like her mouth is still in place, but like everything above that is just replaced with like a giant video camera looking thing.
And the cop eventually gets killed by his wounds, and then her battery runs out.
Yep. But then at the very, very end, it does show her like escaping. Yeah. But I mean, without any power.
Right.
I don't know how far she's gonna go.
And then, finally we get, it's just called Terror. And essentially it's a bunch, they're in Michigan, they said.
Yeah, right outside
Detroit. And like they're doomsday preppers, they're Proud Boys, whatever combination of that. They're MAGA.
Yeah, they're proto MAGA, right?
And they're talking about we're gonna go look at this. They have this. They show a guy in their compound. Because of course they have a compound that's kind of underground. They shoot a guy in the head. They're talking about this great weapon. They go to like a municipality building. They're going to blow it up with their great weapon that they have. They first we got to test it. So they test it on the rabbit, expose the rabbit to daylight, and it just blows up like a bomb. And there's a recording. It's like, this is history in the making. We're set this right. We're showing what's up. And they get a whole bunch of arsenal from a cop who's like, you guys are doing the right thing. You guys right here, I understand you. Like, that's the most southern Michigan person I've ever heard.
Well,
yeah.
I mean, you get people with accents, an hour south of Chicago.
But this is an hour south. It's an hour north, west.
Well, yeah. I'm just saying, there's rural areas all around.
So eventually you realize that it's vampire blood. If you throw vampire blood onto somebody and expose them to daylight, it goes off like a vampire would hitting sunlight. It explodes.
Right. Well, yeah. Up until this point, they just look like your typical survivalists, nutbag dudes. Right. Until like the next scene where they show them going down to the same like cell where they had the guy locked in before when they shot him in the head. And the same guy is now there and awake again. Yep. So, like, obviously, like, this guy is not a regular human person, right? And so, then they shoot him again the next time. And then this time they show him, like, they're, like, draining the blood coming out of his head. And they're, like, saving him. And so now, they realize, this is vampire blood. And then when vampire blood hits sunlight, it explodes. So, like, at this point, instead of just being crazy people, now that's like, okay, they actually have a point. Like, this is actually a real thing.
Yeah.
As much as you want them to be wrong, they're unfortunately right.
Yeah. And so, they have this newer guy, and they're like, everyone's drinking celebration that they're going to do this big plan tomorrow. We're going to get that vampire bill.
Yeah.
And so, they're watching him on the vampire. It's like, hey, we should go piss on him. What? Yeah, we should go piss on him. Well, okay. And like, so they get in there. It's very reminiscent of Rob Zombie's two redneck security guys taunting Michael Myers.
Yeah, kind of, yeah.
You should go up and kiss him. Go in and give him a kiss. Like, what? This is stupid, right? And so, one guy gets kind of drenched in the vampire blood. Like there's like the alarms are going off. Like, who's not here? We gotta find him. And they're like calling this guy. He's like, hey, And like he runs out and he's covered in vampire blood, so like explodes.
Right. And then the one guy panics and starts shooting their big machine gun, and he ends up like wiping out like 3 or 4 of their own
like,
guys.
Damn it, Bill, and boom, I'm shooting you.
Yeah, they have to shoot him to get him to stop because he won't stop. So then there's only like 3 of them left, and then they have to go in because if the sun goes down, like the vampire is going to come out and kill them. So they have to go in and take out this vampire before the sun goes down. There's only like the 3 of them, so they go in there, and they eventually basically get taken out one by one by this vampire.
Like they go into like that at the like attic of the barn essentially too.
Right, and I think they recycled the demon vagina from the Parallel Worlds segment to be the vampire's mouth. Like you take that demon vagina and just move it up to the mouth, and that's exactly
that's fair. Yeah, that's fair. So yeah, that's pretty much that. And then the wrapper of Holy Hell, as this one's called, is like 2 of the SWAT teams were part of this, and they're making their own video. And the last guy left is going to be part of this snuff film and see if they're good enough to cut it.
Right.
So
they strip off their SWAT outfits, and they got like white suits on underneath.
Yeah.
And then they just beat the last cop.
Yeah, they're just part of the cult that they're investigating, essentially.
Right.
First thoughts for me. I know I saw this when it came out last year. I know we discussed this when this came out last year. I thought, especially after VHS Viral, I thought it was good. I thought, like, all right, this is back to where it needs to be.
Yeah, no, this one was definitely good.
Yeah.
It was definitely a well. Unfortunately, I had not seen Viral. But this to me felt like the same. This felt like what the third should have been. So VHS 2, and then this should have been
right. And no connections to anything else, but just a good story overall. Like it had to return to form. That was absolutely needed. It was like great stories, great everything all around. And this was a rewatch for you as well, right? We both watched it a year ago when it came out.
Yeah, I watched it when it first came out.
So definitely on the rewatch list, I think, in this franchise. If you go to rewatch these,
definitely, yeah.
So for you, what was the best story?
For me, it's going to be a bit of a tie again for this one. One overall, I think the best one is going to be Storm Drain. That's the one with the news reporter and Ratma. I think that was done well. I mean, I liked the actress. I thought she did a great job. I mean, overall, I thought that was like the best done one, my favorite one. But I also love cyberpunk stuff. So I also have to put the subject at that same level, just because of the cool cyberpunk imagery
right
there. I mean, obviously, a lot of the effects and stuff are not as good, but I give it the tie score simply because of the subject.
I mean, it was reminiscent of, especially some of the Cenobites or even Cronenberg machinery meets man.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, there was a lot of like weird stuff. Like the guy with the sword hands had like these big, like almost like machine slug eyes. Yeah. It like came way out of his head. Yeah, I mean, there was some interesting stuff going on there, and then there's a lot of like the scene where she went into like the surgery suite, and there was like all these like half built dead people with like machinery sticking out of them, and there was like the one girl that was like still technically alive, even though like her body was like all stuffed with tubes and pipes and wires. I mean, it was like I said, it was fun. The subject
did that remind you of the one episode of Invincible? Do you remember the guy who was like part machine? He kept creating his.
Oh, right. Yeah, no, yeah, that's fair. Yeah, it would be very,
Yeah,
very
he's
similar.
just trying to build the better version and figure out what part of the brain needs to be there and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. For me, Hail Ratma. I mean, that's it was especially on the rewatch, especially because we just saw The Howling 4 weeks ago. It was very reminiscent of it, and it was a combination of Howling meets Chud for me. I'm not saying Chud's a good movie, but I mean, everyone knows. I think a lot of people know of Chud. But yeah, I think the acting was phenomenal. I think the creature effect on it was pretty good too. In case you don't know, I can't tell. I love practical creature features.
Well, yeah. I mean, it depends. If practical effects done correctly, yes, they're timeless. They're great.
Yeah.
But done badly, they're forever.
Yeah. And I'd hate to say a weakest story because they're all good in their own way. Right. What's your weakest story?
I mean, the weakest story in this group would be The Empty Wake. And that's not because it's a bad short. It's not. It is good. It's just not as good as the other ones in this list. And unfortunately, it's the one that's not as good the most. So,
yeah.
So by default, it ends up at the bottom.
It's on my weak story, but by no stretch of imagination, it's not a bad story. And there was hints at lore at the open endedness because usually everyone's dead by the end of these. But yeah, it was good and subject interpretation. And obviously, we had different thought processes and the spell casting, but yeah, just it's the weakest one just because by default. I agree. So, how many broken VCRs out of 10 would you give this one?
This one I will give 8 out of 10 broken VCRs. I like this one just as much as the first one.
Yeah, I do too. So I'm sticking with my 9. Honestly, it was like a great return to form just because how awful Viral was, and it's nice it only took a movie to get back to it. You know what I mean? Usually it takes 5.
That's true.
All right, you want to walk us through the last one?
Sure. So yeah, VHS 99. Again, spoiler warning if you have not seen it because it came out recently. But this one, oddly enough, doesn't really have a wrapper. I mean, it kind of sort of does, as there's like these little shorts that happen in between most of the shorts, but there's no like
tie.
Continuing
just a guy
story.
Doing stop motion animation with army guys.
Right. Yeah, that's literally all it is like stop motion animation.
And then there's like the wrapper wasn't horror, it wasn't anything. It was just there.
So those little shorts end up tying into the second to the last.
Yeah.
Is it the second
Gawker.
to the last? Yeah, the second to the last one. So it's really not even its own wrapper. It's just a kind of like a weird extended part of one of the later ones. Anyway. It starts off with that, but there'd be a couple of those in between these, but they're again stop motion, army guys is all you need. Yeah. So then the first one is like a punk band, like a pop punk band from 99, obviously, with the peak of 99 style.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, it looks like they literally like went from like the 90s movies of like She's All That and stuff, and they literally like took their outfits and put them on these people, because I believe the one guy is wearing the same glasses that Seth Green was wearing in that movie.
That's entirely possible.
The same like weird goggle glasses. I'm almost positive those are the same.
Because he wants to be Power Man 5000. Yeah.
Right. So again, at that time, I mean, it's very true to the time period,
absolutely.
But they're very much there. And they very much have that pop punk attitude to where they're like constantly like fucking with people and like constantly like trying to push that edge, and it's very kind of off-putting, I would say. Anyway, and so the name of their band is Rat,
because that's their initials. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So the one girl is the singer, and then there's like the one guy, Anchor, I think is his name. He's the drummer and like the only kind of level-headed guy in the group.
Yeah.
And then
Chris.
there's the other guy who's like probably the most annoying guy. With the curly hair, he's just like out of control annoying. And then there's like the gothy kid, who's also very annoying, but at least he's got good style.
Yeah.
So they decide there's like this urban legend kind of thing of like this underground punk club that punk bands used to play in, and apparently like 3 years previous, the last band to play there, who was Bitch Cat, was an all girl punk band. They had played there and a fire started, and they were apparently trapped and trampled by their own fans and then burned to death in this club.
Right.
And the club has been closed ever since.
Which I like that we get Bitch Cat, like almost behind the scenes VH1 interview with them too.
Yeah. They were like, "Oh, if you don't know Bitch Cat, here, watch this tape." And they literally like it's supposed to be like a tape of them, like their tour tape, like before whatever. So so we do get to see them play some music, and they're like, attitude. They're kind of the same kind of punk attitude that the Rack people have, essentially. So their big thing is they're going to sneak in on the anniversary of their of this tragedy. They're going to sneak into this underground club. They're going to find out what equipment is still there, and then they're going to play their own show there. So that's the kind of the excuse as to why they have their camera there. So they they kind of go through with it. The one guy, Anchor, he like stops at home to like get some kind of like spirit defense stuff, to like try to set spirits at ease, because he doesn't want to go there and they're trying to anger these ghosts if they're there. He wants to like send them off nicely or whatever. So they're all like teasing him mercilessly for doing that, like nonstop. And then as they get to the underground, they're like still teasing this guy. They get to the place. They're like constantly messing with him, constantly like, making him scared and freak out. They're like, "Oh, the ghosts must have set up all our equipment," because they had apparently broken in and stolen his drum kit and set it up down there just to freak him out. So they start playing a song, and they literally get, I don't know what, like 10 beats into the song before all three of the other ones like act like they're being like possessed by like ghosts or something, and then the guy freaks out, and of course they're just fucking with him again. So he gets kind of mad and he kind of storms off. And so they go to like find him, and then they end up finding zombies. Which is essentially they find the Bitch Cat people are still down there, and now they're like zombie versions of themselves. And they kind of get stalked and killed like one at a time, while like punky music is
ripped
playing
apart
the whole
like
time.
they're made of plastic bags full of slop.
Right. Yeah. They're like trying to like bizarrely. There's one scene where they're trying to like piece them back together after tearing them apart. It's very weird. But anyway, and they show the one kid like throwing spices at them to like try to like settle them, and then it does seem to be working at first, but he ends up getting
because it burns one of their faces, the zombies' faces, just the bone then.
Right. Yeah. So but it doesn't work anyway. But anyway, so they end up all getting killed, and then it like essentially like rebuild them. I don't know if they like possess their bodies, or if it's just they just have like puppets on a string kind of thing, or whatever they're doing.
That I was trying to figure that out too. Like I was trying to see if like they were, behind them acting as them, because you don't see the other zombies again. You see Rack playing, but they're very puppety. Yes.
Right. Well, because they had been torn apart, so they like essentially like put them back together. And then now they're like playing music, but again, it looks like they're puppets, but I don't know if that's supposed to be on purpose or whatever. But so they're playing like music. And then just kind of that's
Right.
it.
As I called this, because they also filmed their skateboarding stuff, I call it CKY 2K meets zombies, just because it reminded me so much of the CKY stuff with Bam and all the precursors to Jackass stuff that existed, especially because Jackass came from the skating scene. So
yeah, no, I mean that's fair. Then that one ends. And then we go into the next one is called Suicide Bid. And it's essentially a college girl who went and visited a sorority and basically like decided that she loves this sorority and she wants to go into it. The suicide bid is essentially, I guess, when you're applying for sororities, you basically have like a list, right? So like number one is the first one you want to get into, and then you list all the other sororities you'd like to get into, and then hope that you get selected as one of them. And if you do what they call a suicide bid, which is you only put one sorority on that list, and you hope that sorority sees it, saying like, "Oh, you're so focused on getting in, maybe they'll just let you in."
Because if no one else, if you only put them on there, no one else is going to take you.
Right. Yeah. So like you really show that you're really focused on them and you hope that they take you anyway. So yeah, she kind of does that for like I don't know, what do you call it? The mean girl clique.
Oh yeah.
Sorority. That's what they really seem as, so she does her suicide bid and they end up picking her. But the thing that she has to do before is she has to get hazed. I guess that's the sorority thing to do. She has to get hazed to be, accepted. So they tell her this legend of like somebody that tried to apply to their sorority years ago, and then like her thing is that she had to like get into a grave and stay in the grave overnight. Yes. And she ended up like going insane, and when they opened up the grave in the morning, she was gone. And that's like the legend is like she's still out there trying to find people to play with her or something. Yeah. So they end up bringing her to the graveyard. There's already a grave dug with a plywood coffin. And so they tell her like, you have to go in this coffin, and you have to stay in there all night. And if you stay in there all night, we'll come get you in the morning, and then you'll be, in the sorority. Like this is like your initiation.
They gave her a dead man's bell.
There's like the dead man's bell. Like if you need to come out earlier, you ring this bell, we'll come get you, but then you're not going to be in the sorority. You can take your camera because again, she's filming everything. So they like, you can keep your camera so that you can have a light and you can have something to do while you're down there. And the one girl who seems like the nice girl gives her this little like a music box looking thing. And she's like, okay, now when you're like at your most scared and you really want to ring that bell and you need a little bit of strength, you just open up this box and it'll give you the strength to keep going. And like I said, it seems like she's the nice one, right? So she decides to do it because she's all in on the sorority. So she climbs down, she gets in the coffin. They put the top on the coffin, and there's like bizarrely like a plexiglass like cross window on the top.
Plexiglass sure it acts more like saran wrap, but yes.
but so whatever. It's supposed to be a window. I don't know why. So they actually do like bury her.
Not a lot.
Like in this coffin. Well, again, she thinks they did, but yeah, to be fair, they did not. They were all like still sitting right there. Like they were.
It seemed like they just buried them. It seemed like they just put dirt over the window and made it seem like she's fully buried.
Right. Yeah. So I mean, at this point, it just looks like they're just messing with her. But then like the cops come, and then they get scared and they run off. Like, oh, we'll come back for her later, and so they kind of run off. So she's like trapped in this coffin, right? And they're fucking with her. Before they left, they were like banging on the thing, to like make her think that this legend girl is coming for her. And she gets scared enough to where she does open up that box, to get that strength, and it was fucking full of spiders.
Yes, it was.
God, it was terrifying. I mean, they were so realistic looking. I was like, oh my God. I mean, they were giant, gross, ugly spiders. And then when one of them was crawling on her face, I was having a hard time like looking at the screen. Anyway, so at this point you figure out that they're just terrible people.
Right.
So they run away from the police. And then it starts raining. And it starts raining very, very heavily. like hurricane rain. So like essentially the water starts like dripping down into the coffin and starts filling up the coffin.
Shit coffin.
Right, yeah, because it's only made of plywood. So yeah, like the coffin's like filling up with water, and it's like cracking and like, you know, it's gonna like collapse in on her. And then like as she's like the most scared, like this horrible shit is happening, like this like zombie face.
It's a deadite face. Henrietta's face.
Yeah, it was like a deadite zombie face is like writhing around on the plexiglass window. And you're like, oh my God. So that it kind of like, you know, she's screaming, and then, you know, like actually like breaks through into the coffin. And then it kind of cuts away. And then it's them, going, you know, the four girls coming back to it in the morning. Like they left her there all night long. And they get to the grave in the morning and it's full of water. And so the one girl goes, oh my God. And she like jumps in and she goes down there and she comes back up and she says the coffin's empty. And they're like, what do you mean? And so another girl jumps in and goes in there. They're like, oh yeah, it's empty. Like she's gone. And so they're all like immediately like, no one tells anybody about this.
Take this to our grave.
You know? yeah, we take this to our grave. You know, like, yeah, we're nobody's ever going to find out about this. And then it just cuts to like them waking up inside of a coffin. Like all four of them are in separate coffins. And they're all like waking up, coming to inside the coffin. So like, you know, it's like she came back for her revenge. And it actually shows the ghost or deadite that was on that plexiglass window shows up first. And then you're like, oh, so it's like that ghost got her. And then it shows the other girl is now like a deadite, but not quite rotten yet because she just died. And she basically says that she made a deal with the other, you know, ghost that, you know, if she let her join her, that she would bring her more souls. And so she's essentially giving the four girls to that zombie, whatever, to survive. Yep. End of story.
It was an interesting one.
Yeah, no, it was
very, very tropish, but interesting.
Right. Okay. And then, so then we got Ozzy's Dungeon, which is, it's like, super 90s. It's like they combined, the Fly Girls from In Living Color, are like the dancers for this like TV show. And the TV show is essentially like a cross between Legends of the Hidden Temple and Double Dare.
Because you have the different colored teams that you have to do these tasks to earn these things.
Right, yeah. So that's it's like finding the flag in the slime is like, you know, Double Dare, and then like the weird like set and setting and all that stuff is like straight out of Hidden Temple. So yeah, it's all that kind of stuff, and it also has like these weird kind of Lovecraftian elements almost. So like how weirdly dark it is. And then the host of the show is the guy, I can't remember his name, but he's been in a lot of stuff. He was in Walking Dead for a while. He was one of Negan's lieutenants. He was actually Trevor from Grand Theft Auto 5.
Okay, yeah, I don't.
But anyway, like it was not only like it was his motion capture like stuff, it was his, you know, likeness in the game. It was also his voice. But he's been in a bunch of other stuff. I mean, he plays a good kind of unhinged crazy dude. But anyway, so he's like the host of the show. So yeah, there's like this you know, one girl who's like going through the show, you know, like the first step of it is like where they put like deer antlers on their head and then they like charge other people and try to pop their balloons on their that are like on their chest. But yeah, that's like you clearly see people getting injured by these antlers. So yes, they're sharp and dangerous. And then the second one is like you have to catch meat in your mouth. Well, yeah. So they're like throwing like chicken legs, and you had to catch one in your teeth in order to make it to the next round. And those are the first two rounds. And the third round is like the obstacle course. And the obstacle course is like set up like like a body. So like literally you're stepping through tires that are called orifices. And then you're like sliding down a slide that's his esophagus into his like stomach, which is like full of like green jello.
Which is a flag down there.
Then you Right. Yeah. And then you have to go, like through the intestines is like these tubes you have to run through. And then the last thing you do is slide down the poop chute. And there's like these like big brown balls, like they're supposed to be poop. It's bizarre.
Yeah.
But yeah, apparently no one has ever completed this course. And then like when you complete the course, like you get a wish granted. It's not like a set prize. It's like you
whatever your wish is
granted
comes true.
Right. Right. So there's the one girl that's like, she's like, she makes it through in like record time. You know, looks like she has plenty of time to complete it. She gets to the very end of the intestines. There's still like a good 15 seconds left. So it looks like she actually can win. And then like the other guy that was behind her like, you know, rival or whatever, like literally like snaps her leg like in half. I mean, it looks terribly bad, but yeah, her leg is like completely destroyed.
And they rewind it a couple of times and play it back.
yeah, they rewind it and play it back. And then all of a sudden it cuts to like later on. So like, you know, they don't say exactly how long, but it's like apparently a few years later. And the host is like in a dog cage, he's wearing only his underwear. And it's like the mom of the contestant girl with the broken leg, and her family, and it's like he's like in a weird basement, and like so she like lets him out of the cage in the weird basement. There's like a weird mock set for like his show down there, and essentially, you know, she tells him that he has to make it through this course in the 60 seconds, or else, you know, he's gonna get like covered in acid. Like she has this like bottle of acid,
just a bottle of acid
splashes. Yeah, she just like splashes it on something and it like melts it, so you see that this is real acid. So yeah, he's like tied up, you know, and everything, and he has to go through this thing with his hands tied, in 60 seconds. So yeah, he actually like does it. I mean, it's obviously not the same set, but it's, you know, it's like a mock-up version of it. Only instead of the poop chute being like big brown balls, it's like actual poop.
Yeah.
And it's just the whole thing is just like a weird backyard wrestling version of the show. And he ends up getting through all the way to the end. And he makes it in time. And she's like, "Oh, look, you were late." And he's like, No, I made it in time." And she's like, "Nope, you're late." So she essentially like, you know, chains him up on the wall, and she's about to like kill him or whatever the hell she's doing to him. Then he's like, no, I can give you your wish. I can take you to where the wish is. And she's like, "Oh, don't lie to me." And he's like, no, really, I can't. So they like put him in like a muumuu. Yeah. It looks like he's wearing like a lady's pink muumuu. And they're like, they all get in their van and they drive to like the set. I guess it's like a set to where the show used to be filmed at. And there's like armed guards in front of it. And he's like, "Oh, we can't go in that way, but I can get us in the back way." So they go in the back way, and the set for the show is still there. And the one lady who was like the co-host, I guess, was there, and she opened up the door. And I got just an aside here. That lady was shredded.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, her arms look like they could tear through.
So now that I'm thinking about it, was it another homage to a 94-ish show? American Gladiators.
American Gladiators? Yeah, it's probably.
That's what it reminds me of now.
Probably. But anyway, yeah, I mean, just kudos to her. She was shredded. She was like tough looking. Anyway, so they open up the magic door that's supposed to be where the prize is, and it's like an actual cave. And they go down to like the end of this cave, and there's like this weird like giant lady mermaid looking thing.
It remind me, but female, but remind me of the giant vampire in Blade.
Yeah. Pearl,
yes.
Yeah, kind of, right? Yeah. But yeah, it was like this giant, like mermaid lady, just like, you know, sitting there. And he's like, "Yeah, go up and tell her what your wish is." And so the girl with the broken leg, who's now in like a wheelchair because her leg's destroyed, she rolls up to the mermaid lady, and she like whispers something in her ear, and then the mermaid lady starts like screaming, and then like her stomach like opens up, and this like crazy monster comes out. Right, yeah, with all these tentacles and like this big glowing red eye and stuff comes out, and like all these weird lights and shit are coming out of it. And then all of a sudden everybody starts like their face starts melting. So like her mom, her dad, and the host of the show, like their faces are all melting, and then it just cuts in on her face and
Yep.
she's smiling, and then
Yep.
end of story.
It was a weird story.
Yes, it was very,
But
very
it
weird.
screamed. I mean, like I said, we think it's like 94-ish is our best guess of when the original thing took place. And we're just thinking of everything that could be 94. And yeah, all these hit the box of 94. Like
Right.
Fly Girls and then Kids, Double Dare, Legends, like that. That's weird. You know.
Yeah. Oh yeah, there was a lot of stuff. But yeah, it was was interesting.
All right. So next up we have Gawkers.
Gawkers, yes. And this is the one that the stop motion army guys kind of goes into. So where they show us the stop motion army guys another little short, but then like his brother comes walking in. Like, what are you doing, loser? And then he's like, hey, that's my camera. And then he grabs the camera and takes it back. And then we continue on with the short from there. So like this one, that's why we say that this one's connected. Is that so? It shows that the little brother is a part of this story now. And anyway, so it's like, you know, him and his like really super annoying friends.
Yeah.
I mean, they are like, I don't know what I really had a hard time figuring out what was worse is like the punk band in the beginning of this one or the skateboarders in the other one, the viral one. Like as which group was the most annoying to me. It was close. It was a close fight.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah. So they're like, I don't know. They're like messing with each other. They're like messing with other people. You know, they're messing with like the delivery guy and all this other just stupid, really annoying shit. They're, you know, I mean, they're just, you know, they're teenage dudes. They're just super, super annoying. Anyway. So they're basically like, they get obsessed with this new lady who moved in on their block, right? Who's like this attractive blonde, you know, traditionally attractive blonde.
Washes her car every day.
Yeah, I mean, she's like, you know, washing her car, you know, in front of her house, you know, every day. She's like sunbathing in her backyard in the pool, like every day. So, you know, these, you know, teenage boys are like obsessed with her. So they start watching her like all the time from their window because they live right across the street. And they're like trying to like, you know, get a glimpse of her, like getting in the shower kind of thing. You know, they're like, they're typical creepy boy stuff. And so then like they see the little brother is out there like rollerblading and he ends up like talking to her and ends up going in her house. We see her earlier. She had gotten a delivery of an iMac, which I guess in 99 would be
absolutely.
Yeah, then he comes back out and they're all like, you know, oh man, I can't believe you went in her house. Like you got more game than your older brother, you know, all this, you know, stuff. And he was just kind of mystified. Like, you know, I was just helping her with her computer kind of thing. And so he says, oh, I'm going to go back there later and help her set up this webcam, you know, no explanation given. They're just, you know, she wants a webcam set up. So they basically convince the little brother to set up like a spyware thing so they can like watch her through the webcam all the time. So he does it. He goes back over there. There's like a, you know, they're like watching him do it the whole time. There was like a moment where they thought that he might have been caught, but he wasn't. And he ended up getting the spyware on the computer. The little brother comes back. And so they're all like just sitting around all night long watching the webcam of her like playing on her computer. So, I mean, essentially she's just typing and staring at a screen most of the time, but they're like waiting for the perfect moment. And of course, the perfect moment comes when she decides to take a shower later. So she takes her shirt off and they're all like freaking out. You know, she takes her bra off and they're all like, you know, losing their minds essentially. But then she notices that they're all like staring at her because at this point, when she takes her shirt off, they try to look through the window to try to get a view that way too, I guess. I don't know why. But then she notices that they're all staring at her. And then at that point, she like changes into a Medusa, essentially. Like snakes come out of her head. Or no, actually, she pulls off her hair, which is like a wig, and then snakes come flying out. And then she like turns into like full Medusa. She like flies over to their house, essentially, breaks in, and then like murders them or turns them to stone. one by one, and then the last one that's holding the camera gets turned to stone, and it obviously they're not moving anymore, and it focuses on her Medusa head, and she's like hissing, and then end of
She's
story.
a Gorgon. Yeah.
Yep.
All right, last one.
And then the last one is it's like two goofy. I don't know what are they, like journalists or just like a film crew or something. I don't know what they are. Anyway, they're like a camera guy and
his best
friend. I don't know. Yeah, his best friend, maybe the journalist part of their tour, whatever it is. So they're like filming like a demonic summoning ritual essentially. And so these like, this coven of witches is going to like summon a demon on
a vessel.
On a vessel, but on New Year's Eve for 2000. So 99 going into 2000. Especially, it's like some powerful day, and they can use that data.
Second powerful because they said the first most would have been Halloween. They said the veil though is really thin on New Year's. Right. Yeah, Y2K essentially.
Right. Yeah. So they get like this girl who like volunteers to be the vessel for the demon. And they essentially do like a ritual to try to like summon this person. It's not quite midnight yet, but it's close. And they're like, starting the chanting. And apparently like some other like
lesser demon
sneaks through, and the camera guy sees it and he's like, oh my God, there's this guy there. And so they essentially stop him and send him back. But unfortunately, when they sent him back, he was touching both the camera guy and his best friend. So they got sent back with him.
Yeah.
So essentially they get sent to hell, which is like, it's like this super dark, like, I don't know, like desert, like rocks.
Almost like the Badlands.
Right. Yeah. It's like the Badlands. And there's like, chunks of bodies and blood and stuff like all over the place. There's all kinds of like noises and screaming and all kinds of crazy stuff. So they're like running around and screaming for their lives essentially.
Right.
And they eventually meet like this one lady who like seems friendly enough, whose name is Mabel, the skull biter. And she, they basically say like, hey, we got sent here by mistake. They're trying to summon another demon, and we got, this other demon grabbed us and sent us back. And she's like, well, what's that demon's name? And his name is like Okaban. Yeah, but like,
it's Pokemon or something like that.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. They didn't know the name, but he's like Okaban. And he's like, yeah, that's it. And she's like, okay, I know where he is. And they're like essentially like, we have like, 8 minutes until midnight, and that's when they're going to summon him. So if we can get to him at midnight, maybe we can hold on to his legs and come back with him. So that's their big plan. So they're following Mabel through this hellscape to try to get to where Okaban is. And there's like, they have a bunch of like interactions with little demon people. There's like a lady calling for help, and they go over there, and it's like this weird like pig lady. Yeah. It's like, she's like a pigapede. I don't know what they're called, what she was, but there's like that. There's like, Mabel finds like a cooked person on a spit. Yeah. And she like pulls off an arm like she's gonna eat it. And there's like, they finally find his like back door to his little place. They go in there, and there's like all kinds of weird little demons in there. There's like one that's like chewing on stuff. There's one that's like a little baby.
And they still his little baby pitchfork. They
still his little baby pitchfork. And so they make it through, and they eventually find this big demon guy. And there's like a bunch of his like cultist people around him. Like, I guess he knows he's going to be summoned, and they're like all preparing him. And so they're like essentially like, okay, we're here on time. And when we get to that certain time, we got to run up there and grab him and hope that we get pulled in with them. And so they go down there, and they end up having to fight all the cultist people. And of course, the one guy took martial arts as a kid, so he's like super awesome and kills them all. So they're essentially fighting, and they win. And then it gets to the point where they're going to be summoned back. And they grab onto the guy, and they get pulled through, and the one camera guy comes through fine. And apparently his best friend gets put into the vessel instead of the demon. So because and essentially when the demon comes through, the witches just stab the vessel and kill the best friend, and then like one of their husbands is standing around with like a scythe, and he just like kills the other guy because he thinks he's a demon coming through. So he kills him, and then the very last thing he does is he fulfills his promise to Mabel, which was the payment for her helping them. Was he writes her name in blood in their like witch book.
Her eyes were hazel. Her name was Mabel. I met her once, and now I'm able. That's all I had to go in my head with Mabel. Sorry.
Yeah. So then like it's they say that like she's gonna be the next one to be summoned
in the summoning book. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, and then at the very end they have like another little stop motion thing just to kind of tie it all back together.
So
and then they play a fantastic song at the end.
What were your first thoughts? I mean, obviously this is new to both of us.
I thought it was good. I mean, it's definitely better than Viral.
Yeah, absolutely better than
I mean, this one, I mean, it had some really good stories. Like I really thought that the suicide bid one with the sorority girl was very well done. I liked that one a lot. I mean, the Hell and Back one was fun. I mean, it wasn't great, but it was fun. I like the weird little demon things. I mean, it was just again, it was made it for more like a just kind of like a fun, goofy angle rather than like a terror angle, but it was still fun.
I mean,
it was still.
Yes, they were basically mannequins, some of the creatures, but as far as once again practical effects, the creature I don't think we saw that kind of difference in creativity across a spectrum as big as that one from To Hell and Back.
Right,
like the set piece, like the set pieces just seem bigger for that one.
Yeah. No, I mean, Ozzy's Dungeon really embraced the whole 90s aspect of the thing. They tried to like fit as much 90s stuff as they could in there, but it was still fun. It was still done well.
So,
enough,
I mean, a good follow-up to, VHS 94. And, when this was announced a week before this, so just 2 weeks ago, they announced that VHS 84 is coming out next year. So they're already planning for this revival of this series, and I like that. We're back to it. Give me more.
Well, again, it's also an anthology that I mean, it doesn't even have to be the same people year to year. It can be, and then the stories don't even have to be connected. So I mean, it's something that can easily be done every
year.
I mean, it's going to stand or fall based. I mean, if you have too many bad shorts, it's going to end up dragging the whole thing down. So I mean, you always run that risk. I mean, like Viral was terrible because like all of the shorts were not good. I mean, so it was like, you get something like Viral, it might kill it again, but as long as you stay consistent, you have, people doing fun stuff, interesting stuff.
And that's the thing. That's what's nice with Shudder is, initially I always thought like, oh, this is the sci-fi of horror movies, right? the made for TV movies, but Shudder has put out some outstanding things. I feel, did you watch the Scare Me movie? Okay, I know I told you to, but that was
I don't do what people tell me to do.
But no, it was pretty good. I thought this is a good follow up, and maybe it's going to be a yearly thing. It's great because we lost our anthology show of Into the Dark. It's not coming back. So this is not as good as a substitute, but it's a very good, thing to take place, though.
Yeah, no, it's a nice thing to have, every year around Halloween-y time. It is something else to watch. But again, it's like I said, the same people don't have to be involved at all. Actors or directors, producers, writers. I mean, none of the same people have to be there at all. So it could literally easily be done because you could technically be working on two at the same time.
I think it's just the outlet for these small things like what we saw, at the Massacre could have easily fit into these if they did the old VHS style of it. I think it'd be cool. So for me, the best story is Suicide Bit.
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree. I mean, the actress in this one, I really like her. She's been in other stuff before. I think the one thing I remember her being in is Into the Badlands. If you ever watched that show, she was in that show. She was great in that show. Yeah, so I've seen her in things before, and it's nice to see her.
Yeah.
Continuing acting. I thought she did a fantastic job in this movie.
Yeah, I mean, it was very reminiscent of, and realistically, of the late 90s horror stuff, like Sorority Row or My Bloody Valentine remake of, My Bloody Valentine 3. I don't know if you ever saw Sorority Row, where they had the tire iron as the weapon with the blades on it, where they accidentally killed
really
their sorority sister.
Yeah, didn't they drop her in a well?
Yeah,
and
they
see that.
thought they made the boyfriend think that he killed her, and he didn't. It was just a prank, and he ended up actually stabbing her with the tire iron to finish her off. Yeah,
right.
Is like so. Right. It not only was it take place in the 90s, but that Suicide's bit had that feel of that sorority theme, because we got lots of stuff took place in college in the late 90s of horror movies. It felt
fair.
right.
Yeah, like I bet Urban Legends was in that same era.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. For weakest story for me is Shredding. I'm not a skateboarder, but when the CKY 2K was out, I was of age of people that would be heavily into it. You're there too, but I never liked that show, and it just reminded me of the show too much, because I just really didn't like it. I didn't like the idea of, as I really like punk music, but that type of pop punk crap I can't stand.
Well, to be fair, you have to clarify what kind of punk music you like.
What would?
It's not real punk.
It's not pop punk.
I'm teasing. No, I mean, yeah, I mean, to be fair, you like later generations of punk, so like third wave punk, yes. I believe, is around that time. So yeah,
which is,
I mean,
what turned into skate punk too.
It kind of surprises me. Is that right? Like I said, I thought you would at least like the music.
It's too pop punk. I'm not that big a fan of pop punk. But no, just the whole skateboarding thing, it was done and just reminded me the bad taste of Boonstorm.
No, I mean, that's fair. I mean,
what about for you though?
Yeah, I mean, that one is probably my second least favorite. But I think my least favorite is going to be Gawkers, the one with Medusa, just because those kids, dear God, were they annoying. I mean, they just would not shut up. I mean, it was just like just on and on and on, and I just wanted to strangle all those fucking.
Now, do you feel you were those kids at that age? I don't think I was either. I hope I was.
I mean, don't get me wrong. I mean, I would watch Skinamax once in a while and shit, but I'm not gonna like obsess over some lady on my block to the point where that's literally my whole life is like trying to stalk this poor woman. No, I mean, there's no way in hell. I mean, yeah, I understand. Like, teens are teen males are very horny and hormonal and aggressive in that degree. I'm not saying that they're not. I'm just saying like this was like turned up to like fucking 25 out of 10. It was like out of control.
Would you argue that like the turning of the stone, it's like they just like put the grayscale on him like on their phone and just turned him gray?
Yeah, it's essentially it was like they did like some grayscale and then they put like a couple of like little like obvious like bad CGI cracks on it. But yeah, that's probably correct.
All right, so for you, how many broken VCRs out of 10 on this one?
I'll give this one a 7. This will be a 7 broken VCRs out of 10. And again, I don't like it quite as much as 94. But it does have some strong stories here. It just has some weak ones.
So it's kind of on par as VHS 2 for you.
Right. Yeah, so where it's got some strong ones, but also some ones that aren't so strong. So overall, it's still 7 is still a good score. It's just not quite as good as the original both in this trilogy and the first.
Yeah. I actually like VHS 2 more, so I'm giving this is going down to 7 for me. It's a solid standing movie. It's just not, let's not. I hope 84 is not the number 3 of this one of the original run of this. I don't want number 3 of this new wave to be viral. I hope it's not.
Well, we'll hope not.
So, I know this is. We wrap this up. We have the stuff. I just want a quick talking point of analog horror as a whole. With this come out, the first one came out in 2012 ish, so like 10 years ago.
Okay.
Do analog horror is now a bigger thing on YouTube where people are making short films like The Back Rooms or other couple of things off the top of my head I can't remember. But it's like, taking our generation's technology we grew up with and making horror films on it because it's so easy to, it can look shoddy. It can have the tracking line go across and stuff like that. And I feel like I can't recall anything, and we're discussing this off before we start recording, but I don't recall, a movie set in the digital age that tried to replicate the analog recording stuff. And I feel, to me, this is a precursor of what we're getting now on the YouTube channels.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm sure there is. I'm sure there's something out there that I don't know of or that I don't remember. I'm sure there is, but I know for a while there is like they tried to move away from that whole VHS visuals because it was like, you move into the digital age, right? Everything's clearer, everything's, better. They're like obsessed with, more pixels on the screen and all that kind of shit. And they were like super obsessed with that to the point where like everybody shunned the old, way that you would view things. You know what I mean? So like VHS was like really, really thrown out the window. And I don't think people got nostalgic for VHS and that kind of visual style and that kind of medium until around the time of VHS 1. So I mean, that's when that started. So it's, when that, when people were like reminiscing over what, VHS was or like how interesting the older VHS stuff was, that's really the point where it started to become popular again. But I think that gap between like when VHS was actually in use and the point where VHS 1 came out, people were just like, wanted nothing to do with that.
I completely agree. Everyone's like, everyone had these convert your VHS to digital here. Get rid of these pieces of shit. You don't want these anymore in your life. Which is a shame. And I don't have many VHS.
Yeah, I don't, and I really wish I did because I didn't get. Of course, I got rid of them like right before. I know, like, okay, there was the resurgence in 2012. I got rid of my VHSs in 2010 or 11. I mean, it was like right before. Like, if I would have held on to them for like an extra year, they would have been worth money. But no, I got rid of them right before then.
Yeah, I mean, with this idea and this resurgence, do we see stuff like this coming up in, unfortunately, the only one season of Archive 81 that we got, with the people restoring analog stuff? Do you
And I hope so. I mean, because I really liked Archive 81. I thought that was a really cool concept. I don't necessarily know if the second season would have been good in the direction that they pushed it in. You know what I mean? But I mean, they could have easily done another wraparound to that. I mean, it could have been good. I really liked the premise of that show. I really liked the presentation of that. It's a shame that it got canceled. I hope something else comes along and picks up that torch. I think the want is still there, or at least the want from me is still there. I don't know if everybody else out there feels the same way, but I definitely want.
Yeah, I know it's been heavily suggested with some of the people I'm talking to with Kyro Cave and This Is Nerdy and some people that we've talked to, in the past month is I know people that I've talked to want us to look at analog horror on YouTube and kind of go through it. I know we've discussed some YouTube channels like Crypt TV where it's all creature features and stuff like that, which, one of them became one season of a TV show so far. Would you be interested in looking at some analog horror on YouTube and just we can go back to this as a comparison?
Yeah, you're gonna have to give me a list.
I'm asking people.
I don't know anything about it.
A list for myself to give us.
Okay, I'm just saying. I know nothing about it. So yeah, if you give me a list of the good and the bad, I mean, obviously, I don't mind watching some good and some bad because I like to have that zero level, So where if I'm watching only the best examples of it, yeah, I'm not getting the full picture of what it is. So I need some bad examples.
Yeah, like I said, I know. I will go through. Like I said, I've subscribed to Crypt TV. I want to pick some stuff out of there. Those are almost like 2-sentence horror stories for those, but they're really good creature features, like practical creature features, and it's part of a bigger universe. But like I said,
okay. I know what 2-sentence horror stories.
Those are good.
Is.
Oh.
I'm trying to keep up with you millennials.
Hey. 2-sentence horror story. I had to sit down and watch VHS Viral again.
Yeah, no shit.
So, yeah.
Period. That's the horror story.
But it's interesting to see what people are doing now with what, if we can move some of these people into the VHS world of this franchise, because this can go on indefinitely. There's no reason it has to be limited to a year or to anything. It just can be, like how Into the Dark was. It's just different stories. That's it.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely set up for it. I mean, it can, like I said, you can make more than one of these at the same time if you want. So, I mean, yeah, there's no limit to where it can go. Again, you have too many bad ones in a row and it will die. But.
And here's the big question for you. Do we need rappers in this?
I like the rappers. I like having a reason why these tapes are being played. Because again, it's a bunch of tapes. Like if you don't have the rapper showing that the people are actually watching VHS tapes, it just looks like people made short films and put a VHS filter on them.
So you feel the rapper is more of, we are the audience watching it with the people watching this in real time,
right?
That we become part of the
right. Yeah, the reason why it looks the way it does, right? The reason why there's like these tracking issues and and glitches and fuzz outs and stuff like that is because we're watching a VHS tape, and because we're not watching it on a VHS and analog television, we need a reason as to why it looks like that. And so that's the reason why. If you want me to be in that world, I need a reason to be in there.
Now, do you think we'll ever get to the point where this evolves into DVD?
It can.
We're analog horror.
They wouldn't have the tracking thing in it anymore, but it could easily have
skips that you miss an entire chapter taken out. I mean, this sounds like some of our favorite directors' scenes. Like, wait,
or like Planet Terror with real missing. Yeah,
because like I said, we're at the precipice of the digital age, and at some point, DVDs are the next thing, and we're gonna go, well, DVDs are antiquated and garbage at some point in time too. We were going purely digital into most of stuff today, that DVDs and having to clean them, there's errors with those. So it'd be interesting.
Well, yeah, think about the dawning of the digital age, right? Like when you had, a stack of burnable CDs on your desk, and you had these CDs labeled weird names and shit all over your desk, right? So you could easily do it off of looking through these discs and trying to figure out what's on
like
them.
the MOV files, or you're watching on QuickTime and stuff like that. I think it could translate to it.
Well, yeah, but again, in that age, a lot of the movies and shit were like really crappy looking anyway. We're like 480 resolution and shit like that. So they could easily look just as shitty as the VHS one does.
It'd be interesting. Maybe that's what they'll do at some point. It'd be interesting to see that, because we grew up in that analog to digital age, and here's a series that is the analog age that we grew up with, and I'd like to see it evolve to the digital at some point.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Technically, we both belong to the subgenre of Zennials.
Grew up analog as children and teenagers.
Yep. Analog childhood to
Yep.
digital adulthood.
All right, cool. Well, I think that's all we got for this episode then. So yes.
Agreed.
So stay tuned for next week's podcast. We'll be discussing the John Carpenter Apocalypse trilogy, which includes The Thing, Prince of Darkness, and The Mouth of Madness. I'm excited for this one. So, yes.
As you should be.
The rewatches are necessary. I need to rewatch them anyway. So in the meantime, this is Graveyard saying, have you checked on the children?
This is Salem saying, long live the new flesh.
Good night.